The Earth had collapsed just like a game after a server shut down, and with it all, life gradually vanished amidst that chaos an unknown omnipotent being bestowed. A single solution dispatching heroes from Earth to other worlds these heroes called pioneers brought back a life force. That sustained humanity's fragile new existence among these people was a special young man, the main character of this story. His name is Chan-Su. Chan-Su's father was once a top-ranked pioneer, but as the situation on Earth worsened, he had to leave for another world once again and never returned. Chan-Su's mother, unwilling to live a lonely life, decided to search for her husband, but eventually went missing as well. Chan-Su became an orphan. The memories of his parents gradually faded, their faces becoming just a blur in his mind, and Chan-Su longed to become a pioneer, so that one day he could go to an otherworld and find his parents, but he failed every time he tried. Currently, Chan-Su lives by doing odd jobs, taking whatever work he can get, but his heart always yearns for distant worlds, and he even gets lost watching programs about pioneers in the middle of his workday. Instead of working, what are you doing standing around here, huh? Young people these days are nothing but trouble, always lost in useless fantasies. The boss's reprimand made Chan-Su quickly bow his head with a regretful look. He immediately ran to clear the tangled vines on the road. Getting told off on his first day of work made his heart even more troubled. He regretted his carelessness, fearing he might get fired with just a few skillful moves. A swing of his hand to the left, to the right, a little up and a little down. Chan-Su quickly dealt with the vines neatly. The boss standing nearby couldn't help but gape. Amazed by his masterful skill, in just a moment, everything was cleaned up perfectly, leaving no trace of the mess. And Chan-Su let out a sigh of relief, but his expression remained sad. The other world was perhaps just a distant dream to him. He looked up at the surroundings, then lowered his head. His gaze fell on the sickle in his hand. A thought flashed through his mind. Could I ever become someone like that? Pushing aside all his doubts, Chan-Su went straight to the dispatch support center. After squeezing through the dense crowd, he finally reached the staff desk. Why? I'd like to ask if there's been any progress on the search. The employee typed, their eyes glued to the screen. A moment later, cold words appeared on the computer. The deposit for the family search is still insufficient. Chan-Su was stunned upon hearing the employee's next words. Kid, this isn't a charity, come back when you have enough money. Before he could react, a bald guy gave him a light shove, pushing him away. Looking tired and disappointed, he trudged back his footsteps, heavy, arriving home. Old habits die hard. Even though he was alone, he still uttered the familiar greeting, I'm home. In the dark space, Chan-Su sat silently reminiscing about the past lost figures, faded memories. A wave of sadness washed over him, but suddenly a beam of light shone in from the window. He rushed to open the door, and before his eyes was a brilliant, blinding beam of light shining straight down. The immense pressure from the light made Chan-Su stumble and hit his head against the wall. He lost consciousness for a moment, unable to react. A moment later, Chan-Su woke up, cursing inwardly. What the hell just happened? His head was pounding. The clock showed 8 o'clock. An urgent news flash appeared on the screen. An S-rank pioneer has retired. He was stunned. His heart pounding from the phone, a trembling voice could be heard. A man whose body was ravaged by injuries spoke his final words in the end. Because I couldn't protect the god, all of my fellow pioneers sacrificed themselves. I was forced to return alone. Now I have lost all my abilities with no way to be dispatched again. After much thought, I have decided to retire. I'm asking everyone, please protect the Earth. Please do not lose your courage. This news immediately became the focus of a press conference, turning into a hot topic that shook the entire world. Chan-Su silently watched the screen, his heart sinking. The mission failed, and now he is retiring too. Suddenly a knock came from the door. Knock, 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 interrupting the tangled thoughts in Chan-Su's mind. He frowned, got up, and walked to the door. Who could be looking for me at this hour? When the door creaked open, there was no one in sight. Just a quiet hallway. A draft of wind brought a slight chill, and Chan-Su wondered if someone was playing a prank on him. Mr. Chan-Su down here. A childish but very clear voice called out from below. Chan-Su, startled, looked down, and before his eyes was a rabbit. A chubby rabbit with 2 ears standing straight up and pure white fur. Its paws were tightly hugging a glowing iPad as it looked up, its mouth moving. You're Mr. Chan-Su, right? Is this your house? Mr. Chan-Su. The scene before him was so absurd that Chan-Su felt dizzy and collapsed to the ground, nearly fainting on the spot, but only a single thought remained in his mind. I must be dreaming, but the chubby rabbit paid no mind to his panic. It just kept tapping furiously on its iPad screen while continuing to ramble on. You are Mr. Chan-Su, right? Calm down, and listen to me. I bring you tremendous good news. Congratulations. The rabbit's eyes curved into crescents, its tone as excited as if announcing lottery results. You have officially become a pioneer. A rabbit, a bewildered Chanso stammered. Well, what did you just say? The chubby rabbit nodded gently, its ears twitching in time with its voice. I understand you must be very confused. As it spoke, it reached a paw into its vest, fumbled for a moment, and pulled out a shiny card, holding it out in front of Chanso. But the truth is this. You, Chanso, are the chosen one. If you're still doubtful, then how about we go somewhere else to talk? Before he could even recover his senses, he was dragged away by the chubby rabbit. On the way, it hopped along and cheerfully asked, So do you have any special talents? Chanso sheepishly scratched his head. I'm from a poor family, so I'm only good at cutting grass, picking flowers, and catching butterflies. The answer made the chubby rabbit freeze in its tracks. Its ears shot straight up, its mouth hung open, and its two eyes nearly popped out of its head. What was that? It took a few seconds for it to regain its composure and say awkwardly, It's fine. It's fine, surely everything happens for a reason. Mr. Chanso is still the chosen one, so please don't worry. And Chanso scratched his head again, smiling shyly, and quietly said, Thank you. He couldn't help but feel excited. He had never thought he would be able to set foot in the Pioneer Hub. The opportunity had finally arrived. One person and one rabbit stood before a large, imposing door. Chanso took a deep breath, raised his hand to grab the handle. He pulled hard and then pulled again. And one more time, but the door didn't budge. The chubby rabbit looked at Chanso like he was crazy. What are you doing? The entrance is over here. Chanso followed the rabbit and looked at the door, his whole body freezing, his mouth twitching. This is the entrance. This door is tiny. How am I supposed to get in? The rabbit blinked for a moment, then nonchalantly replied, I can get in just fine. And Chanso sighed helplessly and turned his back. Forget it. I'm going home. I'm definitely being pranked. From behind him, the chubby rabbit's voice echoed, Are you sure? You failed many times and didn't qualify for teleportation. Do you really think you'll get another chance to come back? Chanso's footsteps faltered, and the chubby rabbit quickly added its voice a little pleading. Don't misunderstand. I just think it would be a shame if you went back. Chanso frowned and thought for a few seconds. Then, as if compelled by something, he decided to turn back and follow this strange rabbit. This was just the scene of him squeezing through a tiny door crack, crouching and maneuvering his body, which made his face twist up like he had eaten a hot pepper, clearly in his imagination. The door to the Pioneer Hub was nothing like this. It should be a majestic, divine path shining with a brilliant aura. As his head poked through the opening, a brilliant light washed over him, and the young man Chanso couldn't help but be surprised by the sight before him, a neat and brightly lit room. It looked just like a normal administrative office. The fat rabbit turned around, grinning broadly. There's a world that's just perfect for you right now. A world. Chanso's eyes widened. Does everyone get a world that's suitable for them? The fat rabbit took a card in its hand, showing it off with a chuckle. Of course. This is a cube world system called Territory Conquest. Chanso was so startled, he almost cried out. Seeing his surprise, the fat rabbit assumed he was familiar with it. But all it got in return was an honest, I don't know. The fat rabbit froze silently, cursing. You don't know anything yet, you act so high and mighty. After a moment of grumbling to itself, the fat rabbit turned back to Chanso with a cute smile as if nothing had happened. Haha, so you really don't know, huh? That world has been a real hot topic lately. Its most prominent feature is that it has a god's blessing. At the mention of the word God, Chanso immediately recalled that shocking news report. That man was also a follower of a god. A flicker of unease sparked within him. As if reading Chanso's mind, the fat rabbit waved its paw dismissively and explained, Don't worry. The god in this world is completely different from the one in that incident. Chanso frowned. So which god is it? The fat rabbit's tone grew more serious than usual. Normally, the assignment of gods is random, but then its eyes darted around its ears, perked up, and its voice dropped as if it were about to reveal a world-shattering secret. If you decide right now, you'll get the special privilege of choosing one. With that, it pulled out a stack of cards, its eyes glittering enticingly. It presented the cards to Chanso. So what do you say? What's your decision? Chanso stared wide-eyed. He had no idea how to choose. He stared at the three cards, his hand trembling slightly. Seeing his prolonged hesitation, the fat rabbit tilted its head, its voice becoming sickly sweet. Oh, Chanso, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, you know. What are you still hesitating for? Vague childhood memories resurfaced. His father's expectant gaze, the sight of his mother's back as she walked away, his dream of becoming a pioneer to find his family. A bell seemed to ring in his head. If I miss this chance, when will I ever get another one? Why am I hesitating like a fool? Chanso took a deep breath and reached out his hand. All right, I'll choose. He grabbed one of the 3 cards and with a trembling hand flipped it over. Whoosh! A burst of black light erupted from it, filled with chaotically flying white skeletons. Like phantoms fluttering in the air. Cold letters materialized on the card Corrupt Deity, 44%. Chanso collapsed to the floor, his face pale as a sheet. The fat rabbit looked down and giggled, as if nothing serious had happened. Oh, come on, that was just the introduction. Why are you so surprised? Chanso trembled, his hand still clutching the card. What kind of god has an introduction that looks like a ritual to summon ghosts and demons? Just the name alone is a bad omen. Corrupt Deity. And what's with that percentage? How is any of this okay? Chanso scratched his head, stammering, Can I pick again? The fat rabbit grinned as if it had expected this all along. Of course. You can try as many times as you like. But after several consecutive tries, the result was exactly the same. This time was no exception. The cold letters materialized on the card once more, Corrupt Deity, 45%. An enraged Chanso pointed at the card and screamed, "This is obviously a scam. How do I keep drawing a god every single time?" The atmosphere instantly grew heavy. The fat rabbit's usual bright smile vanished, replaced by a solemn tone. "You're mistaken, there is nothing wrong with this card." Overwhelmed by that unusual aura, Chanso stuttered in shock. I didn't mean the card was broken." The fat rabbit narrowed its eyes, each word coming out with powerful force. "This is the last time, choose carefully." Chanso trembled, his hands slick with cold sweat, chanting inwardly like a prayer, "Please don't let it be that god again, please." Finally, he drew a damp card. A brilliant blue light shone completely different from before. Chanso stared, his eyes sparkling with hope. In his hand was a card that clearly read Goddess of Prosperity 0.001%. Chanso was stunned silent, then bit his lip, trembling. The effect is a bit useless, but with a rate like this, it's definitely a super rare card. An image of a devastatingly beautiful goddess appeared in his mind, and a trail of drool uncontrollably dripped from the corner of his mouth. The fat rabbit standing beside him scowled. I don't understand what he's imagining for his gaze to be so lecherous and so filthy. But in an instant, it burst into a radiant laugh, its ears twitching back and forth, looking even more excited than Chanso. "Hey, Chanso, do you want one more chance?" Chanso frowned suspiciously and asked, "If I choose this card, what will happen?" The fat rabbit smiled and answered succinctly, "Immediate departure." Before Chanso could even understand, he heard it continue. In an enchanting voice, it said, "What are you hesitating for? This is your chance to become a pioneer and later join the ranks of the regressors. Everyone will admire you. They will even see you as a savior. Think carefully, Chanso. A completely different life is opening up right before your eyes." Chanso lowered his gaze, his fingers tightening. "That's right. If I keep going on like this, I'll just be running errands my whole life. I can't keep wasting away like this." At that very moment, a notification window flashed before him. "Congratulations, you are now a follower of the Goddess of Prosperity. Your god is about to manifest." As the notification ended, the space flared with light. A faint figure appeared, a graceful goddess as radiant as jade. Chanso's heart pounded. Another notification appeared, "Welcome, future pioneer." But the image was fleeting, vanishing in a flash of light. Everything fell silent. Chanso was still stunned, his mouth agape. Was that really the Goddess of Prosperity? A moment later, the corners of his mouth curled up. "With that goddess by my side, it feels like I can do anything." "All right, where do I have to go now?" Chanso asked excitedly, his voice trembling slightly. "Over here." The fat rabbit led him to a swirling vortex of purple light like the mouth of an abyss. Chanso stopped short. He stared at the vortex, a sense of unease rooting his feet to the spot. "This thing doesn't look right." He hesitated, not daring to step forward. The rabbit behind him shook its head and then suddenly delivered a light but precise kick to Chanso's back. "Ah, you damn rabbit." Chanso screamed as he was sucked into the vortex. As the light swallowed him, the fat rabbit stood above, watching. A cold voice rang out. "Why did you do that?" Without turning its eyes still fixed on the vortex, the fat rabbit said, "You know that all direct intervention is forbidden." The other voice rang out again, sharper this time. "I told you we absolutely could not miss this. Have you still not given up on your god?" The fat rabbit's ears drooped and it pressed its lips into a tight line. Of course not. Meanwhile, Chanso was floating in the vortex of light when a notification window popped up. Loading 78%. He stared blankly, Loading what the next line of text appeared. The god's percentage is equivalent to its power level. Chanso felt as if a bucket of cold water had been thrown on him. What, isn't that supposed to be the rarity? So it indicates the power level. Before he could even process it, the vortex threw him onto a gray, desolate land. Chanso clutched his head, gritting his teeth. "You decide to tell me now," he said, looking up at the scene before him. All around were leafless trees, ruined structures, arid land, and sparse weeds. Not a single soul in sight. He let out a laugh that sounded more like a cry. "Ha ha, damn it, I'm definitely dead." Chanso stared wide-eyed at the desolate scenery around him, then looked up and sighed. "This is the goddess of prosperity. I mean, what about this pile of rubble and these few dried blades of grass screams prosperity?" Before he could curse any further, a ting sound echoed from behind him. A notification box lit up the text, appearing clearly line by line. "Welcome to the Cube World. Conquer territory. O Chanso, you are the apostle of prosperity. Conquer as much territory as possible by consuming land." Chanso frowned, staring intently at the text. "Don't tell me it's like this just because her influence is small. And what's with this spelling error? Am I actually being trolled?" Not wanting to just stand in the middle of this desolate place, Chanso decided to walk around both to survey the area and in hopes of finding the goddess. A moment later, he stopped in his tracks. At his feet, nestled among the withered weeds, was an old sickle. It lay there forlornly, as if abandoned long ago. Chanso bent down and picked it up. As his hand closed around the handle, a strangely familiar feeling welled up inside him. "At least this looks like something I know how to use." Right at that moment, click! A faint noise sounded from behind him. The hair on Chanso's neck stood on end, and a cold chill ran down his spine. Could it be a monster? He gulped, his hand tightening on the sickle as he thought to himself. "I can't die in such a stupid way. I haven't even met the goddess yet." With do-or-die resolve, he swung the sickle, intending to end it quickly. But just as the blade glinted, he froze. What stood opposite him was no terrifying monster, but a tiny hamster, trembling so much, its little round body was practically rolling its eyes, welling with tears as if begging for its life. Chanso's face scrunched up. "You've got to be kidding me, this is a monster. It doesn't look the least bit ferocious." Even so, he tried to find a reason not to have wasted his effort. "But monsters are supposed to drop loot right if I catch it." The little hamster's fur bristled, its eyes filled with tears, and its front paws waved frantically as if it were screaming for mercy. Chanso couldn't help but laugh at the sight. Okay, I'll stop teasing you. As long as you don't bring a whole swarm with you, I guess we're cool. Besides, you're actually kind of cute up close." The little hamster, as if it understood, let out a sigh of relief, then hopped down and scurried off. As it ran off, Chanso raised an eyebrow in surprise. "Oh, you're leaving already?" Before he could even finish his thought, the hamster stopped and turned its head to look at him, its big round eyes sparkling. It let out two little squeaks as if calling him. Chanso was a little surprised, then pointed to himself. "You want me to follow you?" The little hamster shot ahead like the wind. Chanso panted, drenched in sweat, cursing under his breath as he ran. "For something so small, you're ridiculously fast. Where are you even going?" After a life-or-death chase, the two of them finally came to a stop. The sight ahead made the little hamster excited, as if it had found heaven, while Chanso could only stare with wide eyes. It was a crystal-clear stream, its water gurgling as it flowed through the desolate landscape. Not waiting another second, he immediately rushed to take out his water flask and fill it. Chanso chugged it down, the cool sensation spreading through his body as if he had just crawled out of hell and into paradise. Not to be outdone, the little hamster stuck its head in the stream and drank several gulps, its belly visibly puffing up. Chanso sat on the grass, let out a satisfied sigh, and glanced over at the little creature. "Hey, by the way, do you live around here? This environment doesn't seem like a suitable place for a young hamster to live, does it? Do you know where the goddess lives? That goddess of prosperity." The little hamster didn't seem to care much. It crouched down, meticulously grooming its fur and shaking its ears as if completely ignoring the question. Seeing this, Chanso mused and mumbled to himself. "It's a bit hard talking to you, isn't it?" Suddenly, the little hamster started squeaking urgently, its front paws pointing continuously in one direction. Chanso raised an eyebrow. "You want me to follow you again?" With no other choice, he followed behind. After walking for a while, he finally stood before a giant tree, but instead of being sturdy and lush, it was dying. Yellowed leaves littered the ground. The branches were dry and shriveled, leaving only its massive trunk like a ruin. Chanso couldn't help but exclaim, "This tree is huge, but it's also completely withered." It was no different from the trees on Earth. He reached out to touch it when he suddenly heard a crack. Hurrying to look down, he saw some kind of root under his foot. It looked a lot like a ginseng root, and its surface was clearly imprinted with the shoe print from where he had just stepped on it. Is this ginseng? Before he could react, the little hamster burst out crying miserably. It let out a long squeal and rushed forward, its two tiny paws hugging the ginseng root tightly like a loved one who had just met with a terrible fate. Chanso stood to the side, scratching his head in embarrassment and stammering, "I'm sorry. Did you plant this?" Just then, the cold sound of a notification box rang out. "You have discovered the god of this area." The notification hovered in front of his bewildered face. "What, I've discovered the goddess? So where in the world is the goddess?" Suddenly, the little hamster, still crying, lunged forward and bit tightly onto Chanso's pant leg, trying with all its might to pull him somewhere. He bent down and picked it up. The little hamster struggled violently, its bloodshot eyes looking like they would explode with rage. Chanso looked at it and said, "I'm busy right now, you know. I'll play with you in a bit." The panicked hamster quickly pointed a paw toward the ginseng root. It then clasped its two front paws to its chest, looking just like a god. All four of its legs suddenly shot out straight. Its body convulsed, its face turned purple, and finally it went limp and rolled over, looking exactly as if it had just died. Chanso stood there stunned, watching every dramatic gesture, and yet his face slowly turned deathly pale. His trembling eyes glanced down at the shriveled ginseng root on the ground. His throat tightened, and he stammered out the broken words, "Sick could it be? That shriveled ginseng root is the god." A lone ginseng root lay on the ground. Its dull-colored skin was marred by a shoe print, and a few shriveled leaves scattered nearby only added to its pitiful appearance. Chanso stared, his face growing increasingly ashen. A corner of his mouth twitched non-stop. "This can't be happening. My goddess is the goddess of prosperity. There's no way she could be a shriveled-up ginseng root." Just then, a faint layer of blue light began to glimmer around the ginseng root. Thunder seemed to crash inside Chanso's head, and his heart hammered in his chest. "What is that blue light? This has to be a mistake. It must be. I mean, look at it. It's obviously just a ginseng root." Memories of the beautiful goddess of prosperity he had once seen, resplendent, dignified, and benevolent, surfaced in his mind. But compared to that image, the goddess I once saw wasn't some bland weed. He remembered the fine print below the picture was clear, image for illustrative purposes only. In that moment, his entire world seemed to collapse. He fell to his knees beside the ginseng root, his two hands clutching his head in dazed despair. All that business with claiming land and those percentage points, it had been a hidden clue all along. Thinking back, the percentage had gone up the moment he drew the card, but he'd foolishly assumed it was just a display bug. He never imagined the reason was because the territory had expanded. The more Chanso remembered, the more he trembled, and for it to appear so frequently, who would have thought it was a good card? He looked at the goddess of prosperity's percentage stats, realizing that she had become like this because her domain had shrunk. Suddenly, Chan's show jumped, realizing the goddess hadn't woken up despite being trampled on. A chill ran down his spine. Could it be that I just killed a god? A wave of panic surged through him. Chan Shou frantically fumbled in his bag and pulled out the only remaining water bottle. With a trembling hand, he poured it directly onto the strange ginseng root. The shriveled peel quivered slightly, its withered brown hue slowly gaining a touch of freshness, as if it were inhaling the breath of life. Chan Shou's eyes widened in disbelief, and he immediately poured more water. It was as if he were trying to save that fragile life. A small mouse stood nearby, its front paws covering its face, its entire body trembling. It let out a pathetic squeak. Its eyes were filled with fear, as if it had just witnessed an earth-shattering crime. Chan Shou, overjoyed, continued to pour the water, his heart wavering, but a series of trembling thoughts echoed from the ginseng. "So cool. Is it raining? It's been so long since I've had water like this. So refreshing. Wait, that's a little too much rain. That's enough. Stop, at this rate I'll drown, I'll really die." The ginseng root trembled slightly and finally opened its weary eyes. It looked more like someone who had just escaped drowning than a revived god. Chan Shou and the little mouse were overjoyed to see it move. Their faces lit up so much. Oh, Chan Shou placed a hand on his chest, bowed at a 45-degree angle, and said with a reverent voice, "Greetings, my lady. I am O Chan Shou, the Apostle of Prosperity." After speaking, he gently looked up at his patron goddess, but all he saw was a limp, exhausted ginseng root unable to move. Chan Shou stood there empty-handed. He smiled a smile that was more like a cry, so helpless that he didn't know what to do next. Just then, a notification window appeared before his eyes. Use skills to become stronger. Chan Shou swiped his hand across the notification panel, unable to help but exclaim inwardly, "Oh, so there are special skills. Blessing of prosperity." There was no line of explanation, But just from the name, he knew it must be a skill for a bountiful harvest. Suddenly, right below the words blessing of prosperity, another line appeared. Decapitation. Chanso's eyes widened. His heart nearly leaped out of his chest. Decapitation, as in that kind of decapitation. In Chanso's mind, a bizarre image involuntarily appeared of some rich guys being reaped by the goddess and considering that a prosperous life. The thought made him shudder, cold sweat beading on his forehead. She's a goddess of abundance, so how could she grant such a brutal skill? Chanso trembled as he stared at the ginseng root below, stammering, "My lady, this decapitation skill isn't what I'm thinking it is, right?" The ginseng root was silent, then slowly raised its hand. If you could call that curved little branch a hand, it made a clear slicing motion across its neck. "My apostle, just do as you're told." Chanso tried to keep his voice steady, pointing at himself and enunciating every word. "You mean you're telling me to perform the decapitation?" The ginseng root crossed its arms and nodded decisively. Chanso stood frozen to the spot, his mind a tangled mess. If he thought about it carefully, the goddess of prosperity was naturally related to agriculture. And agriculture certainly includes butchering livestock. So that decapitation skill wasn't completely unreasonable. As the thought dawned on him, he slowly turned his head. Behind him, the little mouse was still hopping about carefreely, its chubby body shaking from side to side, full of glee, unaware that from behind a gaze filled with murderous intent had silently locked onto it. The little mouse shuddered, sensing the murderous intent. It turned its head only to see a horrifying sight. Chanso was raising a sickle high, ready to swing it down. It let out a terrified squeak, its tiny body twisting away in a hurry. 2 streams of tears poured down its face. In its terror, it dashed over to the ginseng root and hid behind it, its whole body shaking uncontrollably. Chanso closed in step by step. The little mouse hugged the ginseng root, squealing incessantly, its eyes filled with terror. But just when only a single step separated them, both the ginseng root and the little mouse trembled in unison. They looked behind them in terror. A chill crawled up Chanso's spine. His instincts urged him to turn around. Before him was a giant. Pitch-black foot that had just landed on the ground. Disgusting liquid dripped from it, as a foul stench assaulted his nostrils. Chanso was stunned, the sickle in his hand trembling slightly. The little mouse snuggled closer to the ginseng root, its 2 eyes welling with tears, its whole body tense. The air suddenly grew heavy and suffocating. A colossal figure slowly came into view. It was a towering monster. It looked like a phantom wrapped in black mud. Chanso struggled to swallow the scream rising in his throat, his 2 hands gripping the sickle handle so hard they shook. "Over there!" The little mouse and the ginseng root cowered, hugging each other tightly, their shimmering eyes on the verge of tears. Suddenly, the little mouse leaped up, desperately standing guard in front. It spread its 2 tiny legs to shield the ginseng root. Chanso froze for a moment, a glint in his eye as a thought suddenly struck him. "It's not a monster, I was wrong." The corners of his mouth tightened, his hand gripping the sickle even harder. "If that's the case, then the only enemy here is that monster." Chanso took a deep breath, gathered what little courage he had left, and charged forward. The sound of his rapid footsteps echoed. As he ran, he scanned intently, looking for a weakness. "Luckily, I can still make out its head and neck." Just then, a notification appeared. "You can activate the beheading skill once you are close enough." He swept the sickle to one side, and the rusty tool suddenly shone with the sharpness of a sacred sword. He severed the monster's head from its body. The head dissolved into particles of light and disappeared. The remaining body crumbled and collapsed like a sandcastle, drenching the ground. The little mouse and the ginseng root couldn't believe their eyes. Chanso had destroyed the monster in a single strike. Chanso walked back over, looking at the little mouse and ginseng root who were still in shock. Chanso spoke softly. "Goddess, are you all right?" When his eyes met this mouse's tiny, tear-stained face, it was like a thunderclap exploded in his head. This blasted little mouse, in that brief moment, it risked its life to stand in front and protect the goddess again. A wave of shame washed over him, and Chanso immediately knelt, bowing his head deeply. He said sincerely, "I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. Will you forgive me?" The little mouse looked blankly at the ginseng root, squeaking quietly as if asking for its opinion. After a while, it turned back and raised a paw as a sign of agreement. Chanso stood up. A relieved smile crossed his lips. He scratched his head, laughing awkwardly. "I just came up with a name for you. How about it? We're going to be living together from now on. So you need a name, don't you think?" Its little eyes sparkled as it squeaked in agreement. The heartwarming moment was brief, as a notification window suddenly appeared. Through the skill effect, the head has been automatically converted. Immortal Demon Hunt 1! Chanso froze, his eyes fixed on the words. He suddenly realized that the monster was an immortal demon. The notification continued to change. The tribute will be automatically bound to the goddess. Chanso hastily turned to look at the ginseng root. The sight that met his eyes was of the once shriveled root, now plump and shiny. Its wrinkled skin looked brand new, and a faint light seemed to flow through it. He couldn't help but feel excited. If I keep this up, she'll return to her prime form in no time. I'm going to go chop some more. And so one person ran off. It was just like finding a secret to leveling up. Now that he knew it worked, all that was left was to do it again and again. Climbing the barren hill, it was not hard for Chanso to spot a monster similar to the one from before, because this place, like the goddess, was so withered and barren that there was nothing to hide behind. Just then, a notification screen lit up before his eyes. Unidentified points exist in this location. These points can be used for features within the system world. They cannot be traded between players. Chanso mumbled in confusion. Points? When did I get points? Before he could figure it out, a noise came from behind. A horde of monsters swayed as they approached. Chanso took a deep breath, gripped his sickle's handle, and a slight smirk appeared on his lips. Luckily, this skill is powerful but not hard to use. The monsters moved so slowly, all he had to do was time the swing of the sickle across their necks and their heads would fly off. The familiar sound rang out, activating the beheading skill. He charged straight into the horde. He ran back and forth among the monsters, his hand swinging the sickle, continuously cutting down any that he met. He took down every last one he reached. The notification sound rang in his ear again. Hunt monsters to receive more points. All right, Chanso laughed, determined. I'm not going back today until I've hunted 100 of them. The notification screen now showed that he had hunted 4 immortal demons. After an exhausting slaughter, having gotten 101 of them, Chanso returned. The little mouse on his shoulder puffed out its chest with its paws on its hips. It looked up at the sky, squeaking with laughter, and even waved its front paws back and forth, as if reenacting the heroic battle. Chanso couldn't help but burst out laughing at the sight. Unable to hold it in, he teased, "Anyone watching would think you were the one who did all the work." Hearing that, the little mouse immediately turned and gave him a few squeaky slaps on the cheek, looking extremely indignant. The two of them, one person and one mouse, bickered back and forth before finally bursting into cheerful laughter. While stroking the mouse's ear and glancing at the notification screen, Chanso mumbled, "But why call it the Immortal Demon Hunt? They're not immortal at all. They die in a single slash. I guess if I keep hunting, I'll figure it out sooner or later." With that, Chanso walked over to the ginseng root. His 2 eyes lit up like a child seeing a treat at the sight before him. The ginseng root now looked as if it had just been dug up from the earth. Washed clean, its skin was smooth and shiny. A small flower bud had even sprouted on its young leaf, and it sat there waving a welcome. Chanso imagined the god of prosperity restored to his full, glorious form. He couldn't help but let out a wicked smile. The ginseng root moved slightly, its body trembling as if struggling to move. Seeing this, Chanso quickly bent down and asked with sincerity, "What do we need to do next?" One person and one ginseng stood facing each other under the canopy of a large wilting tree. After a moment of silence, the ginseng root suddenly raised its tiny arm. It pointed straight up as if to say, "We need to go up the tree." Chanso gently placed the ginseng in his palm and walked to the base of the tree. The ginseng root extended a rootlet to touch the barren trunk. Then it turned its head back to stare at him intently. "Do I have to touch it too?" A little surprised, Chanso took a deep breath and placed his hand on the trunk. At that very moment, a notification screen lit up before his eyes. You can use the skill Blessing of Prosperity. The next line of text appeared. "All blessings will consume points," Chanso repeated like a mantra, "Blessing of Prosperity." Immediately, he clearly felt the energy accumulated in his body. The energy from hunting the monsters was gushing out. It gushed out through his palm and flowed straight into the withered tree trunk. A brilliant stream of light spread out, causing even the little mouse to stare with its eyes wide and jaw dropped, squeaking nonstop. Chanso struggled to pour all his remaining energy into the tree. He didn't know how long it would take for the monsters on the hill to respawn, but as long as they did, he could keep killing them, accumulate energy, and bestow blessings again. The dry tree trembled, then shot upwards rapidly. Long branches sprouted, and young green leaves rustled as they grew. In the blink of an eye, the tree was covered in vibrant life. On the high branches, clusters of pure white flowers bloomed, releasing a faint fragrance before closing almost instantly. In their place, small green fruits began to appear. They swelled up like water balloons, their green color slowly turning to a deep red, becoming so plump and heavy that the branches bent under their weight. Exhausted and panting, Chanso looked up. He couldn't contain his amazement. The entire tree was covered with juicy red apples gleaming like gems in the afternoon sun. With a trembling hand, he picked one. He couldn't believe it was a real apple. This was the first time in his life he had seen one up close, and he now realized just how big and heavy the fruit was. His mouth watered and he wanted to eat it right away, but he held himself back. The follower offers the first fruit to the goddess. Perhaps this was the proper ritual. The goddess reached out with her 2 hands to embrace the apple the moment the ginseng root held that huge fruit. He couldn't hold back a satisfied smile, but in an instant the apple began to shrivel at a terrifying speed. Before long, all the juice inside was gone, leaving only a dry husk. Chanso's eyes widened and his jaw dropped, seeing how the goddess absorbed the fruit. He climbed the tree again to pick a few more. Then, holding the apples, he went over to the little mouse and invited it to eat with him. As he ate, he thought she gave me a formidable skill called beheading, but it's best to be careful. He pushed all his cluttered thoughts aside. He focused on savoring the apple in his hand. The more he bit, the more the sweetness spread so delicious it was hard to stop. Watching her follower enthusiastically gnawing on the apple, the goddess of prosperity thought to herself, "What kind of monster is this?" In just one day, he managed to hunt a monster and revive a giant tree in an instant. Where on earth did this bizarre kid come from, Prosperity wondered. In charge of food supplies, she was once a formidable power, possessing countless high-quality agricultural products, but then the calamity began to consume the other factions. Prosperity was forced to flee from that immense power. To survive, Prosperity abandoned her trade and switched to monster hunting, but the Prosperity faction was inherently unsuited for combat. They couldn't win a single battle. In desperation, she transformed her basic skill harvest into beheading, but the Prosperity faction was already on the brink of extinction. Beheading was not even an attack skill to begin with. It was not meant for destroying those monsters. It was a skill for collecting the heads of dead beasts or monsters. Prosperity and combat were simply not a good match. So that was all I could do. Of course, if someone had enough power, it would not be impossible. Suddenly, Chanso stood up, holding his sickle, interrupting the goddess's thoughts. Seeing him raise the sickle and glance in her direction, the goddess flinched. Then she heard him laugh sheepishly and say he wanted to pick more apples. The goddess broke out in a cold sweat and forced a smile, thinking to herself, "Why did a child like this have to come to me? Whatever the reason, from now on, this child belongs to me." Seeing him climb down, the goddess did not wait. She strained to flip 2 of her roots and hastily wrapped them tightly around her follower's leg. "I will not give him to anyone else." Chanso shuddered for a moment as the ginseng-shaped goddess suddenly wrapped 2 roots tightly around his leg. A terrifying thought immediately rose in his mind. Is this goddess trying to suck out all of my life force? The sky gradually turned a sunset yellow, and Chanso carried a basket of apples on his back. He slowly walked towards the ruined castle. In his arms, the tiny ginseng root had fallen fast asleep. He gently placed it on a flat rock, afraid of waking it. Then Chanso reached out and gently poked the chubby cheeks of the little mouse next to it, chuckling softly. "You have worked so hard." The little mouse immediately resisted that disrespectful act. It squeaked non-stop as if scolding him. Suddenly, a loud rumbling sound came from its stomach, startling both Chanso and the little mouse. Meanwhile, the ginseng root slept soundly, not stirring in the slightest. Afraid of waking it, Chanso quickly placed the little mouse on his shoulder and briskly walked away. His face was clearly glum because his stomach was not full. He lamented to himself that just apples were not enough. At that moment, a message notification sound rang out. In the silent space, a line of text appeared. Delivery event in progress. Looking at the notification, he could not help but wonder, so it is because so many people came over from Earth, that they even have something like this? But to make a delivery, wouldn't they need to know my exact location? The little mouse, bored out of its mind, let out a long yawn and then flopped down exhaustedly on Chanso's shoulder, quickly falling asleep. Chanso gave a helpless little laugh. He carefully lifted the little mouse down and placed it right next to the sleeping ginseng root. Then he gathered some nearby leaves, gently covering the 2 of them like a blanket, letting them rest peacefully in the cool evening breeze. In another place known as the Sanctuary of Samsara, a girl strode forward, full of angry purpose. Her heels slammed against the stone floor as she marched straight toward a room where a man sat engrossed in his notes. The sudden slam of the door being thrown open made the man jump. The pen fell from his hand. Trembling, he quickly wrapped his arms around himself, defensively stammering, Hey, what about the order? Why are you here? Senior, are you messing with me? The girl cut him off, gritting her teeth. The man's face grew pale as he quickly waved his hands to explain, I don't know what you're talking about, but please calm down first. This girl was Sujin, an apostle of Samsara. She angrily held up the order form in her hand, her voice trembling but filled with rage. I'm already swamped with my own work. Don't be so unreasonable. A business trip to the outer territories for 3 days and 2 nights. You know it's because of that damn free shipping event. Which means I didn't earn a single cent, did I? But I still risked my life to make that delivery, and what did I get in return? A single apple. On top of that, the client had the nerve to say they had no money and wanted to trade an apple for the item. Sujin slammed her 2 hands on the desk, glaring as she yelled, Did I do something wrong? The man across from her instantly broke out in a cold sweat, his back rigid. He avoided her eyes and turned his head to the side, his voice trembling to know nothing. Then the man crossed his arms and explained, It's quite the opposite, really. It's just that our junior is too passionate about her work. I love my job too, but if you keep working overtime like this every day, your body won't be able to handle it. Even though it's technically a business trip, you should use it to get some rest. If you stay here the moment you finish one task, you'll just have to move on to the next. Go cool your head or something, all right? But Sujin, still not giving in, argued, I know it's because no one else wanted to take this assignment. The man scratched his head, looking embarrassed at being found out. He quickly put his 2 hands on her shoulders, spun Sujin around to face the door, and pushed her out, adding, Maybe you'll get lucky and find a hidden territory or something. Who knows? Just be careful, okay? In the end, Sujin could only let out a helpless sigh. Fine, I'm going. I'm leaving now. As she walked, her hand swiped quickly across a screen displaying the job list. Why is this order list so ridiculously long? Sujin's brow furrowed and a corner of her mouth twitched. If I really have to go to the Forbidden Zone, I need to prepare thoroughly. Her fingers tightened into a fist as Sujin took a steadying breath. Determination mixed with exhaustion flashed in her eyes, hoping that this trip wouldn't be in vain. On a day with a clear blue sky and drifting white clouds, Chansu was playing hide-and-seek with the little mouse. All around were baskets filled to the brim with red apples. The little mouse hid behind a big apple, nibbling on it and squeaking gleefully. Bet you can't catch me, Chansu slowly approached. Seeing the half-eaten apple, his eyes lit up. He pretended to tease. Now where could you be? Could you be behind these apples? Hearing his voice right by its ear, the startled little mouse covered its mouth with its 2 front paws, not daring to move, but it was caught by Chansu in the end. He laughed as he lifted the little mouse high up. He even used 2 hands to squeeze its plump round cheeks. Then his face suddenly turned serious as he reminded it, I'll say this again. These apples aren't for eating, they're for trading. If you keep this up, what am I supposed to do at today's meeting? The ginseng root perched on a nearby rock also nodded its round head in agreement. Chanso couldn't help but sigh, not wanting to make a bad first impression. According to the information he got when he signed up for the World Delivery Service, this world is divided into different territories called blocks. Although they look like normal lands, a wall exists at the edge of the world, and to move to another block, you need a periodic pass. There was literally nothing around him. Even the nearest village was a full week's journey away, so he had eaten almost nothing but apples. The delivery job only takes about 2 days. Tiredly, Chanso poked the little mouse's cheeks to relieve stress, then flopped onto the ground, wondering how they did it. But whatever. I just hope the sleeping bag arrives soon. A bed would be even better. He propped himself up and saw the ginseng root grinning widely, waving its roots in greeting. Chansu laughed and said, Oh, I also ordered a pillow for the goddess. He was smiling on the outside, but inside he was calculating that to avoid becoming a dried-up corpse, he needed to gain as much favor as possible. Just then, the atmosphere suddenly changed. He tightened his grip on the scythe in his hand. Before him was a long line of immortal demons advancing one after another as if offering up their lives. Chanso's eyes turned ice-cold and unwavering. True to their name, these immortal demons never seemed to end. Chanso rushed forward, ignoring whatever blocked his path, deciding to kill first and think later. The scythe in his hand glinted with a cold light. With just a few basic swings, a whole group of immortal demons disintegrated into dust. The little mouse on his shoulder, its fur standing on end, trembled and clung tightly to Chanso's collar, panting as it glanced behind them. An immortal demon was charging in for a surprise attack. Just as the powerful blow was about to land, Chanso leaned aside, dodging it cleanly. I knew it. Their movements have gotten faster. He gritted his teeth, his gaze growing even colder. Monsters can level up like skills, no matter how the monsters changed. Chansu didn't flinch. He charged straight in his scythe, swinging in several slashes. Silver light tore through the space, and in the blink of an eye, a whole horde of immortal demons exploded into ash. Fragments scattered everywhere. He stood there, breathing evenly, his cold gaze unwavering, completely unaware that another pair of eyes had been watching him all this time. High up in the air, Sujin, the apostle of reincarnation, stood with her arms akimbo. Her winged shoes glowed faintly, keeping her afloat in the sky as she looked down at the scene below. Her eyes widened in astonishment. "That's insane," she murmured, her heartbeat quickening. "What in the world is that?" Immortal demons are the prime hunting target because they give more points than regular monsters. Naturally, no matter how many times you kill them, they resurrect the next day even stronger than before. People discovered that they are the type of monster that will chase you even if you move to another block. Worse, they leave a curse on their target, eventually causing them to break down. Now everyone avoids them. And yet Chanso kept swinging his scythe, its path smooth and seamless without the slightest hesitation. That scene didn't look like a battle, but more like a farmer leisurely harvesting his crops. Sujin had never in her life seen such an extreme form of swordsmanship. Sujin swallowed nervously. Could he be a swordmaster? But why would a swordmaster be doing something as mundane as picking apples? Better not to provoke him. Who knows what would happen if I get on his bad side? After fighting for a while, a notification window appeared before Chanso, and he couldn't help but feel delighted to get more points. And the rate increased from 5% to 10%. He clenched his fist, feeling great. The blessing fee is 1,000 points per apple, so I can manage up to 100 apples today, without any problem. He looked towards the shrine, thinking to himself, "At first I wondered why there was a shrine in a place like this. Is it because it is a special block?" Someone appeared from behind, interrupting his thoughts. He saw a girl bowing and saying, "Excuse me, customer." Then she straightened up and smiled brightly. "It is a pleasure to meet you. I am Sujin from the Shipping and Trading Company. Your order has arrived." Chansu beamed with a joyful smile and shook her hand, asking in surprise, "Oh, how did you find me so quickly?" "Aha, because you are quite conspicuous." She saw he appeared very friendly, but Sujin vividly remembered him casually slicing the heads off immortal demons. She absolutely could not let her guard down. Suddenly, while Sujin was smiling, her eyes froze on a tiny furball on Chansu's shoulder. A series of thoughts flashed across her face. "I want to touch it so bad, I want to touch it so bad. I want to squeeze it so bad, I want to touch it so bad." Seeing her flushed and longing face, the little mouse fearfully hid behind his back. Even as she followed the man, the phrase, "I want to squeeze it so bad," echoed relentlessly in her mind. The two of them walked to the apple baskets, but Sujin's mind was still on the little mouse. A sweet, fresh aroma of apples drifted on the wind, filling her senses. "The apples smell really good, don't they?" "Yes, they have grown very well and are delicious." After a few more steps, Sujin stopped under an apple tree. The tree towered above its branches, heavily laden with large, round fruit. Their color was unbelievably bright and vibrant. "What is this?" Each apple was the size of a cantaloupe. Not just 3 or 4, but 5 times the size of a normal apple. Seeing her speechless, Chansu smiled and asked if she wanted to try one. "Yes, can I really try one?" As she took it, Sujin immediately felt its heavy weight in her palm. It was clearly ripe and juicy. She took a bite. Crunch. The sound was incredibly crisp and clear. Immediately, apple juice burst and filled her mouth. It was astonishingly sweet, but what impressed her even more was the perfect balance as she crunched through each piece of the apple. Sujin was already running calculations in her head. How much should this be priced at? At a minimum 50,000. With a good strategy, we could even aim for 100,000. By the time she had eaten more than half the apples, Sujin had finished her calculations. "Mr. Chansu, sir, selling this for 2,000 gold is completely unreasonable." Chansu scratched his head, laughing sheepishly. "Is it that unreasonable? Maybe they should be sold for less in the store then. So what is a good price?" Sujin held up 2 fingers. He stared at them, looking confused. 20,000, that price is a bit... Sujin gritted her teeth and said with determination, "You must accept at least 20,000 gold for each one. That is its true value." Hearing this, Chansu's eyes widened in shock. Seeing his guileless expression, a flicker of ambition sparked within her, but she suppressed it as she looked at the heavily laden tree. "To be honest, I think each of these apples is worth at least 30,000 gold. It is that expensive." Sujin chose to lay all her cards on the table. A long-term transaction based on solid trust was much better than a dangerous tug-of-war. Besides, you only get one life. Chan-Su, still in disbelief and fearing he had misheard, asked again, "Is it not just an apple?" Sujin picked up an apple and explained, "This is the first time I have ever eaten a product this delicious. I have eaten all sorts of fruits from all over the world, and I believe this apple is more valuable than any other specialty product." Sujin then pulled out a contract and continued, "Therefore, for now, let us price it at 20,000 gold per apple, and then I would like to settle the remainder with a formal contract. What do you think?" Chan-Su took the pen and quietly read the contract thoroughly. After a moment of thought, he smiled. "All right, but let us do it this way." Sujin's eyes widened as she reread the contract. "I think you've made a mistake. The percentage we receive has increased." Chan-Su smiled brightly because I want to do business with a good person. "For a long time, and you were honest with me about the value of the apples before, weren't you?" Seeing him extend his hand, Sujin was a little surprised, then smiled resignedly. "Thank you very much for signing the contract. Now I should give you what you ordered." Sujin took out the items Chan-Su had ordered one by one from her backpack. These are the various seeds. "The food and cooking utensils you ordered. And this is a familiar egg. A gift from the transport trading company to commemorate our deal. It might be useful for your farming." Chan-Su accepted the egg. The little mouse also leaned down to look. Sujin also added, "The more points you infuse through a blessing, the stronger the familiar will be when it hatches. But you must be careful because infusing too many will cause the egg to shatter. I recommend you stop when the egg's vibrations become intense. By the way, could you tell me about the apple yield and harvest schedule for the future? I plan to grow other crops too, so I think there will be about 50 apples a day." Every day after that, the two of them coordinated the supply cycle quantity and visit schedule. After adjusting the other details, their first business deal came to an end. The ginseng root received a body pillow and wouldn't let go. Seeing this, Chan-Su burst out laughing. To get this rich just from selling one batch of apples. It's all thanks to that goddess. Suddenly, the ginseng root started to walk away. He didn't understand where it was going, but then he saw the ginseng root go into the bird's nest and hug an egg. Seeing the sparkling glint in the ginseng root's eyes as it looked at him, he forced a smile and thought, "If I want to use a blessing on the familiar egg, I'll need more points." He scrolled through the notification window looking for a way to get more regular customers. When he scrolled to the monster poll content, a chill ran down his spine. A moment later, Chan-Su smiled faintly. "I have so much free time now, and everything is going better. I expect there will be much more in the future, but I'm not afraid. In fact, I'm really looking forward to it." But when she returned to the city, Sujin immediately went to find her superior, Senior Kim. A pioneer, or maybe a believer. It must be someone from the alchemist faction, a Korean, from a war or violence-oriented power. I don't know what their intentions are. The man looked at the slice of apple in his hand and said, "Ah, from the beginning all the apostles were Korean, so that's not surprising. Someone who can grow something like this. And he's a combat type." Sujin bowed her head, trembling. "With just a rusty sickle, he decapitated over 100 immortal demons," the man said while munching loudly. "It seems he's aiming to become a master swordsman by training with a sickle. It would be better if we keep him hidden." "I think so too. And let's sell these apples at a department store. We absolutely should." Suddenly, Sujin grabbed the man's hand as he was eating. "What are you doing?" "Let go! You've eaten all the apples by yourself. I'm your senior. And I'm the one who brought the apples. This slice is mine." Night fell. Chan-Su sat channeling energy into the egg. "I wonder what will hatch. Will it be cute, or will it be a hard worker? Either one would be great, right?" Then one person, one mouse, and one ginseng laughed happily. A moment later, a cracking sound came from the egg. All three watched in anticipation. The eggshell shattered completely. It's an SSS-Rank familiar. A leg appeared, then a beak, a wing, a creature that looked like a chick. It chirped. Chan-Su was frozen solid for having spent 120,000 points. And only a chick hatched out. Watching the chick scurry around, he couldn't hide his disappointment. "Although it looks a little bigger than a normal chick, it'll just grow up to be a rooster. I was hoping for something more useful, or can I just raise it and then eat it? Looks like I'll be having fried chicken soon. But this is the chicken I traded 120,000 points for. I can't get attached to it. Let's just give it a simple name for now. Hello, from today your name is Aji, and I'm Ochanzo." Aji points to the remaining egg. Ochanzo places all his hopes on this egg. Crack, crack, the eggshell breaks, revealing a piglet. At this moment, Chanzo is utterly helpless. He wonders why he keeps getting food ingredients. What kind of familiars are these? Is this a scam? Although disappointed, he also gives the piglet the name Doji late at night. Aji and Doji quietly leave for the goddess of prosperity's place. They both bow. Aji chicken number 10 greets the first goddess of prosperity. Pig number 12 greets the goddess of prosperity. It's been a long time since we've met. Please forgive me, my children, for not being able to protect you until the end. Oh, please don't say that, Your Grace. We are the ones who should apologize for not being able to serve you properly. We will do our best so that you can return to your original form. I thank you for your kind hearts, my children. But be careful he doesn't know you are my kin. If he finds you useless, he might sell you. Or he might eat you. The goddess's words made the two small animals turn pale. Then they heard the goddess continue so until you acquire the communication skill. You must try your best, is what the goddess said. True, eat us. It seems likely. There's no way that would happen. First let's just observe for now. The next morning, Chanso yawned while warming up his body and taking a step. He smiled, starting a new day with the immortal demons, sending them his regards with decisive slashes. The piglet and the chick were awakened by the noise and went outside to see. The sight of him slaying demons terrified the two small animals. Cheap, what is that? Is beheading a skill like that? Oink-slaying Chanso was all too familiar with this. Every slash of his scythe landed true. The two small animals stood frozen, watching the immortal demons disintegrate as a piece of flesh flew near them. It made them break out in a cold sweat with fear. Cheap, no wonder. I feel like the follower is looking at us with a hungry gaze. What do we do? He really might eat us. A notification appeared. You have hunted 202 immortal demons. Chanso raised his hand to wipe his sweat after finishing them all. A rustling sound startled him. Oh, when did you guys get here? Cheap, the goddess's follower has worked hard. Are you very tired? Oink, oink, haha, Apostle A, good morning. Come on, smile. He didn't understand what they were saying. Just found them cute. Suddenly remembering, he looked towards the apple tree. Then a plate of apples with small pieces was presented in front of the two animals. Do you want to try some oink oink for me? For me, a cheap, don't eat too much. Don't be tempted. You're really eating with gusto, huh? Eat a lot and grow up fast, okay, oink? Heh, so delicious. Maybe apple-fed pork is in vogue right now, huh? I wonder if the meat tastes better if I feed them fruit. Hearing this, the chick was startled and rushed to pull the piglet away. Stop eating, you stupid pig. You're going to become apple-flavored grilled pork belly. Chanso offered a piece of apple and asked if the chick Aji wanted some too. The chick Aji thought, what is this flavor? It must be over 500 points. This is crazy. Is this the daily income of a regular apostle? The chick suppressed its craving and turned its head away, chirping, I won't be fooled. Chanso, seeing the chick refuse, scratched his head, thinking it didn't like it, so he poured out 5 cups for it to eat. Its two eyes sparkled, looking at the 5 cups, desperately wanting to eat, but afraid of being turned into fried chicken. But reason couldn't overcome the heart. Everyone has to eat, and so does a chicken. It farmed alongside Chansu for 3 minutes. He told Doji to dig the soil, Aji to plant the black beans, cover it with dirt, water it, and then use the blessing of prosperity skill. So easy, right? Our goddess is truly amazing. The harvested black beans were large, round, and perfectly glossy. The atmosphere suddenly became heavy, startling him. He quickly grabbed a bean and dangled it in front of the chick. The chick jumped up, demanding to eat, but Chanso dodged it, saying the first harvest must be for the goddess. The ginseng root looked at the basket of black beans, unable to hide its joy, then laid down on them to absorb their essence. Chanso scattered a handful of beans and said, you guys eat up too. We still have to plant potatoes and sweet potatoes later. Seeing the piglet bury its head in the food was not surprising. But seeing the chick eat so quickly was a little strange. After eating their fill, both of them rolled over, panting heavily. I finally gave in to my appetite. I'm doomed. Seeing that the two animals were full, Chanso smiled and said, it's good that you enjoyed the meal. I need to hurry and plant other crops for you to eat. Suddenly, he remembered today was the day to sell the apples, and he worried if they would sell well. At the shopping center, a man scanned the information before glancing down below. A large crowd of customers had gathered, but no one dared to make a purchase. The emperor's apple was displayed on a bed of gold dust and winter feathers, selling for 200,000 gold, despite its arrogant name and luxurious packaging. But the exorbitant price was causing discomfort. The man was also deep in thought, trying to figure out how to promote its deliciousness without offering free samples. Suddenly, the words, thank you for your purchase, cut through his thoughts. He didn't know why everyone was in such an uproar, so he rushed over to an employee and found out all the apples had been sold. The display was wiped clean, not a single apple left. The person who bought them all was a famous man named Johann. Hearing the name, he couldn't believe it and yelled Johann, the pioneer of an unprecedentedly harsh training method for swordsmen. For someone like him to buy our apples, this is a huge scoop. It became a hot topic with netizens buzzing Johann the symbol of perseverance. This is what he ate to become a swordsman. The food I regularly ate while training is finally available on the market. That news made the man tear at his hair in frustration, yelling angrily, "How could you people publish articles like this?" Countless calls flooded in to confirm the information. The man explained it time and time again, but no one seemed to believe him, and the phone just kept ringing. His face darkened as he reluctantly answered. Then, hearing the person on the other end casually request an order for 100 crates of apples without notice, he nearly went insane and screamed. That's not an easy thing to do. A week had passed since Chanso set foot in this new world, and he had already built a pretty comfortable life. Today was another busy day. All right, they're all fed. Now I should get started too. On the table, pots were laid out along with a plate of potatoes. With all the ingredients ready, Chanso held a sweet potato in one hand and a regular potato in the other. Unable to hide his excitement, he thought these are just as delicious as the apples. He quickly peeled the potato, cut it into perfectly even slices, and placed the pan over a high flame. As he began to cook the piglet, Doji waddled over, oinking and pointing. Chanso looked down and saw a patch of drool on the ground. "This isn't for you. You just finished eating." Hearing this, the piglet put on an even more pitiful expression, its shimmering eyes looking up at him. Faced with such a look, Chanso couldn't refuse and gave it another piece. From afar, Sujin's figure approached. "Ah, my customer, you've arrived." The moment they saw someone arrive, the three animals immediately huddled together, trying to hide the ginseng root. Sujin paid them no mind as she rummaged through her bag and said, "I've got good news." "Do you want to hear it?" She took out a statistics chart and held it out, saying, "Don't be surprised. Every single apple sold for 200,000 gold, and we've been sold out for 2 consecutive days." Hearing the shocking news, Chansu scratched his head and asked with wide eyes, 200,000 gold for each apple and sold out for 2 consecutive days. Sujin replied with a smug sigh. Unbelievable, isn't it? But it's true. We don't even have enough apples to sell. Chansu recalled that on Earth, apples only sold for about 990 gold, yet here the price was ridiculously high. Only the super rich would dare to buy them. He looked down at the data sheet and started calculating. In any case, my cut is about 30%, meaning I'll profit 60,000 gold for every apple sold. If we sell 50 apples a day, I'll make 3 million gold a day. Does that mean my annual income will be 1 billion gold, imagining that enormous number? Chansu couldn't help but burst out laughing. Ha ha, what could be better than becoming rich? The more he thought about it, the more happiness filled his heart. With that money, he would have enough to start searching for his parents. Chansu looked at Sujin and said slowly, "The commission fee at the shopping center must be quite high." "Right. You've brought such a promising product, so I'll do my best to negotiate a lower fee for you. I don't want you to get discouraged because of it," she said. He got straight to the point. "How long do you think the Emperor Apple's popularity will last? I know it's very popular now, but we can't expect it to sell for 200,000 gold forever." Sujin also replied seriously, "I understand your concern, but we have 1 million potential customers, and even selling 100 apples a day, it would take 27 years to sell them all. During that time, we will definitely build up a stable base of regular customers." Huh, what? Are there really that many potential customers? Chansu's eyes widened. By Earth standards, it was an enormous number, but Sujin calmly explained that the current market size is equivalent to China. "You don't need to worry." After making her point, she suddenly grabbed Chansu's hand, her voice full of anticipation. "So, Mr. Customer Chansu, do you intend to increase your apple production?" Chansu pulled his hand back, forcing a laugh. "Aha, for now my other crops have also grown. Would you like to try them? They taste just as good as the apples." Hearing this, Sujin's eyes sparkled like stars. She gripped Chansu's hand again almost impatiently. "Are there other things as delicious as the apples?" Chansu brought out the pot he had just cooked in, and a fragrant aroma wafted out, making it impossible for Sujin to look away from the plate of steaming boiled potatoes on the table. White steam rose as she quickly speared a piece and popped it into her mouth. The sweet and nutty flavor melted on her tongue, making Sujin's 2 eyes light up. "It's too delicious, it's insane." The skin has a nutty flavor, and the inside is incredibly soft and fluffy. Seeing her positive reaction, Chansu brought out 2 more plates, one with golden crispy fries and another with hot potato cakes. As she broke open the cake, a rich, creamy filling and a glistening golden sauce flowed out, mixing with the fries. Sujin eagerly tasted it, and after just 1 bite, she couldn't hold back her tears of happiness. This could go straight onto the menu of a high-end restaurant. These potatoes aren't just a side dish, they could totally be a praised main course. Chansu scratched his head, smiling shyly. "I'm glad you like it. Finally, this is Doji's favorite roasted sweet potato. Seeing its favorite snack, the piglet immediately ran over. It ran over oinking for me. The chick standing nearby despaired, feeling like its world was about to end as Chan-su watched the scene. He could only laugh as he sat down and gave a piece to each of the two little animals. On the other side, a small mouse also scurried onto the table, its beady black eyes glued to the steaming roasted sweet potato. The inevitable happened. The animal lover's heart inside Sujin exploded. Her hands wouldn't listen and just reached out. So cute, so soft. And Chan-su, seeing this, turned and said directly, "I'm also thinking about selling some of these other agricultural products. What do you think?" Sujin was immediately startled, letting out a dry cough to hide it, but her other hand had already achieved its goal, stroking the soft fur of the little mouse. First of all, I must say that the meal was delicious. But is it okay to increase apple production while also growing these other things at the same time? Chan-su was a bit taken aback, then replied softly, "It will be really difficult if I don't get more points. I don't think I can pour all my points into just farming either." Hearing that, Sujin looked at him with a serious gaze. "In that case, I'm truly grateful for everything you've prepared, but please allow me to ask you to focus on growing apples. As you know, most of our followers are Korean, and the culture in this world is also heavily influenced by that. Although I was truly surprised that you could make such delicious dishes. But other agricultural products are hard to sell at a high price. Even if there's demand, the profit won't compare to the apples." At this point, she bowed slightly, her voice becoming sincere. "Mr. Chan-su, the demand for apples will definitely continue to increase. I won't hesitate to beg you, please consider our situation." Faced with such earnestness, Chan-su fell silent in thought for a moment, then slowly asked, 100 a day, is that okay?" Sujin was momentarily stunned, her eyes wide as if she couldn't believe her ears. Really?" she stammered, her voice trembling. He nodded slightly, his lips curving into a smile, thinking to himself, "There's no need to make things difficult for myself. This is worth a try." She really enjoyed the meal just now. The little mouse in her hand was suddenly squeezed a little tighter. Then she gave a radiant smile. "Thank you." The next day, Chan-su took his sickle out to deal with the undead demons. The piglet and chick, as usual, tagged along behind him. Is it necessary to follow him every day? What can we even do? San, stop talking nonsense. If we don't supervise, who will? Are you going to let that naive mouse do it? The chick flapped its wings wildly in anger. Chan-su turned his head back and frowned. Why do they follow me every day? Are these really combat-type magical beasts? Service-type magical beasts that only know how to eat are useless. Before he could think further, the scene before him made his face darken. The piglet and chick were being chased in circles by the undead demons. I was really deluding myself. Chan-su stroked his chin in dismay. Luckily, the demons moved slowly, but then the piglet ran until it was drenched in sweat, panting heavily. I can't run anymore. Its frightened eyes looked up in terror. You idiot, run! Chan-su shouted in alarm, lunging forward, but the distance was too great. Get out of the way, you thing! A single slash came down, but it seemed it wouldn't be in time. The chick also covered its head in fear-cheeping. It looked up with teary eyes when it heard a whoosh, but the sight before it was the undead demon already slashed away. Chan-su was stunned. My attack didn't reach that far. Is the attack range longer? Have my two skills been upgraded? If I pay attention to the angle and position of the sickle blade and the speed, too. No sooner said than done, Chan-su swung his sickle, slashing down from a distance. The precise slash took down the demon. A notification appeared. New skill Maximal Decapitation has been activated. The attack range of the decapitation skill has been expanded. Maximal Decapitation. What kind of name is that? Chan-su frowned, but then a grin spread across his face as he saw the demons swarming towards him. Haha, this is good. A wider slash range and more regular customers. His laughter echoed throughout the area, causing the two small animals to tremble and cling to each other as they hurriedly fled to find the chicken goddess, crying, Goddess, oh goddess, something terrible has happened. What's the matter, my children? Why are you in such a panic? The goddess asked, startled. The chick cried as it spoke. The apostle started chopping 4 or 5 heads off at once, and while it's great that he's stronger, shouldn't we prioritize his communication skills? The goddess soothed them, saying, calm down now. I've never granted a skill like that, she said as the chick burst into tears. I'm so scared of being eaten, I can't even eat. The calmer piglet asked directly, oink oink. The skill is called Ultimate Decapitation. Did you grant it? Hearing that the goddess looked as if she'd been struck by lightning. Ultimate what? What in the world is that? How terrifying. I've never heard of such a skill. The stunned goddess whispered, her wide eyes filled with confusion. Is he really human? Or an emissary from hell? Could it be? As if suddenly remembering something, the goddess took a sharp breath and turned to the two small animals. My children, I think I might know what's going on. Clap, 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 the piglet cheered, just as I thought the goddess gave him that skill. Thwack the chick immediately kicked the piglet. You idiot, shut up, it said, before turning to ask the goddess. So what exactly happened? The goddess explained in a serious tone. That apostle's skill seems to have evolved as, you know, decapitation was originally a skill improved from harvest, you remember, right? When harvest evolves, it can cover a wider area, and it's the same principle. The decapitation skill has evolved into ultimate decapitation, so its slash radius is wider, and its power is far more terrifying than before, she explained as the chick turned pale and trembled while hugging the piglet's ear. But only apostles who have served for at least 1 year should be able to possess that skill. The goddess nodded gently, her voice softening. That's right. That's why he is both frightening and a precious child. His monstrous evolution speed is naturally startling for you. But it's thanks to him that we can all be here talking, Ginseng said, gently stroking the chick's head. When the apostle returns, I'll grant him the communication skill, so don't worry anymore. The chick, though still trembling, was gradually reassured and mumbled, I'm sorry I showed my ugly side. From a distance, Chanso was on his way back, happily waving as he walked. Ginseng hurriedly waved back her face, showing an indescribable doting affection as a strange yearning stirred in her heart. I really don't know what to say anymore. I also hope to speak directly with the apostle soon. First, I will introduce these children as my subordinates, and as for limiting an apostle's path, is a violation of the world's rules, so I must let him choose. Just as Chanso arrived, a notification window popped up. The goddess of prosperity grants the apostle a new skill. Please choose a skill, Prosperity's Promise or Communication. Chanso didn't know which one to pick. The goddess watched him with expectant eyes, thinking, of course, as my apostle, he will surely choose communication. First, I'll tell him to avoid dangerous fights, and the very first thing I'll say is thank you for choosing me, step 1. He moves to tap the selection in the notification window. The screen displayed skill selection has been completed. Based on your selection, you have received the skill Prosperity's Promise. As Ginseng happily awaited his first words, her smile suddenly vanished, rewinding to a few moments earlier. Chanso looked at the two skills, lost in thought. Prosperity's Promise, huh? I wonder what it does. In communication, does that mean I can talk to animals and plants? An image appeared in his mind of them asking, how could you do this to us? I trusted you, I thought we were family, but I will get my revenge. I will peck until your beak breaks, you shepherd. Have you ever borne fruit more than 100 times a day? My shoulders really hurt so much. You would feel scared if you had to hear those words. So applying the ignorance is bliss rule, he absolutely refused to communicate, and so he chose the promise of prosperity. A line of text appeared without any announcement. The skill selection has ended. Suddenly, the atmosphere deflated. Seeing the goddess and the other two animals looking so dejected and sad, Chanso wondered why they were suddenly so upset. Anyway, I'll just focus on the skill for now. There was no further explanation about the promise with the goddess of prosperity. To apologize, Chanso picked the tastiest and biggest apple. After picking a satisfactory one, he brought it to the ginseng root, but was met with a sullen expression. It sat sadly in a corner and turned away. He didn't understand why it was so sad when another notification appeared. Usage points will be accumulated depending on the use of the skill, but I didn't eat it, I already gave it to them. So does that mean it worked? If I keep the promise, I'll get more points. It seems like a quest has been given to me. No sooner said than done this time. I'll pinch your cheeks. He pinched the little mouse's cheeks, and he actually got points for it. He happily teased the little mouse, should I do it one more time. In response, the little mouse struggled. He switched his target to the piglet and the chick, scaring the two of them silly. He gave an apple for Doji to eat, but he didn't quite understand why there were no points. Suddenly, he looked at the piglet. Its two eyes were sparkling clearly, showing its desire to eat more. Is it possible its stomach isn't full yet? I've already fed it more than 10 apples. Figuring out the reason, Chanso gave up. Sujin rushed over. Oh, Chanso, you're back after just 1 day. What's going on? Sujin said, panting, now is not the time. Right now, you must quickly claim this block and protect it. Chansu was startled. Wait, is someone coming here? Sujin said urgently, they probably are. The popularity of the Emperor apples has reached a point where we have to limit the purchase quantity, but even so, there are already 5,000 pre-orders. Hearing the number 5,000, Chanso was so scared his eyes almost popped out. Sujin continued, they said that any time is fine. Just send them the apples as soon as you have them. That means robbers targeting the apples, and this block will be coming here. And in a place like this, there's no way to stop criminals. If we had a protector, things would be different. Hearing the mention of a protector, Chanso couldn't help but glance back at where the goddess was hiding. If I lose, then not only the goddess, but prosperity itself will come to an end. Sujin offered a solution. At the very least, you must claim this block and install an entrance. Chansu also shared his idea, claim the surrounding blocks and create a camouflaged base. That would also bring me closer to your place, Sujin. Sujin agreed. Now Chanso finally voiced his question. By the way, why are there so many pre-orders? This isn't a normal situation. Don't you know? Everyone is obsessed with the effects of the Emperor Apples. There are rumors that eating them increases experience, boosts healing skills, and prevents diseases. It cleanses the skin, reduces fatigue, whitens teeth, helps with weight loss, and improves memory. With every word, Chansu's mouth dropped open wider. Are you kidding me? Why don't you just call it an elixir at this point? Sujin teased, so it's not true I was hopeful, but what a shame. Chansu gritted his teeth, not understanding how things got this way, but first I have to claim the block. Wait. Sujin put on an expectant face, but is it really not true? Really, there's no way that's true. They're just apples. At a hospital, a paparazzo was stealthily tailing a man hunting for prey for his article as sunlight streamed into a room through the window. A man was working on the hospital bed. This was Hong Yu-Su, the Grand Alchemist. Johann placed a gift box on the table and said, "Here's a get-well gift." Seeing this, Yu-Su asked, "Don't you know I'm being discharged today?" Afterwards, the gift box was opened. Inside were Emperor Apples. Yu-Su asked, "Are these those apples? The ones whose secret you discovered and bought up completely?" Johann said a bit grumpily, "What nonsense are you talking about?" Yu-Su laughed as he peeled an apple. "I knew it." He then put a slice of apple into his mouth. A flavor explosion. His two eyes lit up as he couldn't help but exclaim, "Oh my God, it feels like the taste and nutrients have been pushed to their absolute limit. Are the other apples this delicious? How different is the flavor?" Johann replied casually while eating, "How would I know I'm not some gourmand?" Yu-Su looked at the apple slice and speculated, "So even your senses can't figure out how it was grown, huh? Even with special fertilizer, it's very hard to improve the flavor and aroma of all the apples." Johann didn't seem to care and just kept on eating. Seeing the plate of apples was empty, Yu-Su roared in frustration. "You brought these as a get-well gift and you ate them all yourself." He then took out his phone to place an order, but to his disappointment, they were sold out with a long waiting list. Hanging up, Yu-Su lowered his voice. "You still have plenty more, don't you?" "Sell them to me. I'll pay double. No, 3 times the price." Johann refused with a smile and his arms crossed. The paparazzo furiously snapped photos capturing every moment between the two of them. And the next day, an article appeared with a breaking news headline. Grand Alchemist Hong Yu-Su discharged immediately after eating Emperor Apples. Perhaps the Emperor Apple is a true elixir able to cure alchemical after-effects. Doan Sujin's superior slammed his hand on the table in anger after seeing the news. "We're already busy enough with these nonsensical rumors. Are they toying with us? Are they really adding fuel to the fire? I told them it's not an elixir." Chanso turned to report. "My goddess, it seems we need to secure the surrounding blockers." Hearing this, the goddess was startled. The piece of food in her hand fell to the ground. "I will go tonight." She stared at him, stunned, as he spoke. "Doji and Aji, you two must protect the goddess well. You just got a new skill and you want to leave right away. That skill isn't even for combat." Immediately, the goddess ran over on her tiny little feet. Chanso looked down and saw her relentlessly, hitting his leg. "You can't go. It's too dangerous." He looked at the goddess bewildered and then suddenly thought of something. Chanso was startled, thinking to himself, "Could it be?" He glanced towards Hamzoli. "Has the time finally come?" All kinds of dishes flashed through Chanso's mind. It's time for some protein, even though what we have now is already delicious enough. He looked down at the small beings at his feet. I could never have the heart to eat meat in front of them. So Chanso smiled, turned, and asked them, "Beef should be fine, right? The goddess wants it, so please understand." And so, he quickly ran into the storage room to search for items. Chanso began rummaging through everything to find what he needed. A moment later, his face beamed with delight. "I found it. The beef I ordered before." Before Chanso was a tray of delicious beef. He emotionally recalled that this was real meat, something he had only heard about since Earth only had cultured meat. So I only ever saw it in pictures. Just looking at them was enough to make my mouth water. So Chanso quickly turned on the stove and put the beef on to grill. The fragrant aroma spreading through the air made him exclaim in awe. Just the smell is completely different from cultured meat. Doji, seeing this from behind, panted with excitement. Chanso quickly reminded it, "That's not for you. It's for the goddess." Aji then chimed in, maturely teasing. "You pig, you just ate and you already want to eat again. It's not like that goddess." Just then, as they turned to look, they saw the goddess's terrifying expression. It seemed the food wasn't enough, and Aji quickly cried out in worry. I think the goddess is hungry. Look. Chanso turned back and said it's almost ready. Just a moment, goddess. Then he offered the fragrant, juicy piece of beef to her. Please eat first, goddess. It's hot, so please be careful. However, she immediately threw the meat down in anger. This isn't it! I told you not to go. But our foolish Chanso still doesn't understand and worries, did the meat go bad? Surely she's not angry, right? I just bought it a little while ago. So he picked up a piece to try it. Let's have a bite. Then Chanso put the fragrant, rich piece of beef in his mouth and ate it. So delicious. It's really good, but something is off. Thinking this, his expression turned sad. What a pity. It didn't make as strong an impression as the apple. Chanso, startled, looked at the goddess and realized. So that's why she wouldn't eat it. He guessed the flavor wasn't good. Meanwhile, the goddess was teary-eyed, silently pleading, Don't go, don't go. Don't go! I told you not to go! Don't go! You are my disciple. Don't go. I told you not to go. Don't go. Please listen to me. Suddenly, Chanso approached her with a smile and declared, I will find a more delicious meat for you, goddess. Please be a little patient. Aji and the pig were startled and confused. The time is now 11:59 p.m. Aji and the pig are fast asleep with full bellies. Give me more, more. No, I can't. If I eat more, there will be no turning back. Meanwhile, that radish goddess was still sitting sadly in a corner. She stared outside, her eyes welling with tears on the verge of crying. Right now, Chanso is deep in the forest looking around. Dreamy lights shine through the night. He whispers, This is the border of Blogger. Before him was a transparent blue glowing door. He touched it and exclaimed, From a distance, the landscape looked continuous, but it turns out space itself ripples like this. Suddenly, a system notification appeared. Do you wish to move to Blogger 35 and 10E0? Chanso replied, Yes, let's go. Then system windows gradually appeared, loading a tip. Movement tickets will be restored every midnight. Seeing this, Chansol was surprised. A tip appears after passing the blogger. How friendly. Suddenly, the oil lamp in his hand went out. How scary. Why did it go out? A moment later, the space before Chansol changed and the lamp lit up again. A jungle. He turned his head to look around and exclaimed, This is completely different from where I was. Then Chansol was startled and looked up. A swarm of some creature was flying in the sky, clustered together like dark shadows. When he looked closely, he saw it was a large swarm of bees with a terrifying appearance. They charged at him and he yelled, Oh my God! Immediately, Chansol turned and fled for his life in the opposite direction. He held the sickle in his hand warily. What kind of insects are those? As he ran, Chansol turned back to attack the creatures that got close. They were too small. He continuously swung his sickle at them. It is so hard to hit them. Chansol glanced behind him and made a decision. Damn it, I have to go back. He immediately touched the transparent wall behind him. Instantly, dark shadows with sharp hands emerged. Seeing this, Chansol was shocked. The immortal goblins, why are you here? Are you guys here to protect me? They blushed and thought to themselves. The ones to destroy you must be us, so this time we will fight with you immediately. The immortal goblins immediately attacked the swarm of flying creatures. Chansol yelled, Oh my God, as he ran. When he looked back, he was surprised to see the immortal goblins making the insects disappear, so Chansol stopped. This is my chance. He slashed at the immortal goblins to clear a path back. I have to retreat first. Chansol reached his hand towards that boundary gate. The immortal goblins also reached out, trying to hold him back. Chansol used all his strength, shut his eyes tightly, and dashed through. A moment later, Chansol was sitting on the ground, panting heavily. That was a close call. A system window appeared. Tip. Defeat adult monsters to receive bonus points. And Chansol remembered that moment, surprised. Bonus points. Points from the monsters that the immortal goblins killed. They accumulate. This is totally... He smiled faintly. A gold mine of points. Well, then that changes things. Just then, the immortal goblins also crossed over from the other side. My customer, let's get a workout in. He held the sickle and stood before them, saying, They are really regulars you just cannot hate. I cannot resist the reward. The scene changes to another place. On the table was a pile of documents. A sigh echoed. Senior, I am going crazy from all these complaint calls. Heyo Sujin lay slumped over the table, sighing. The baseless rumors about the Emperor Apple are getting out of hand. The senior, with his head down and trembling, replied, Until now, I have ignored it because it helps with marketing. But you are right, we cannot get swept up in these baseless rumors anymore. As he looked up, his face also showed his exhaustion. From now on, forbid all comments about the Emperor Apple. Do not answer any more inquiry calls or interviews. Handle all questions with silence and by ignoring them. Hearing that, she asked blankly, "Is it okay to do that?" "It will probably cause chaos," he affirmed. "Of course, even if a knife is held to your throat, you absolutely must not reveal anything." His dignified words rang out. These people need to be taught a lesson. Unbeknownst to him, a figure was standing right behind him. Sujin saw the person and stammered. "Senior." A woman asked about what he just said. "If a knife were really at your throat, what would you do?" Hearing this, he was bewildered. "What are you joking with me now?" He immediately replied, "That is just nonsense." But then he noticed a strange object appear next to him. Sujin hesitantly warned him, "There is someone behind you." Tears streamed down his cheeks as he asked, "Are you trying to scare me?" A cold voice came from behind. "Sorry for startling you. This is just a gentle greeting." Before them was a handsome man. This was the sword god Johann, who thought to himself, "Isn't this more of a threat than a greeting? How did he even get in here?" He turned and asked, "What brings you here?" Sword god Johann's hand rested on the table earlier. "I found the former director, but he was quite tight-lipped. I hope you won't be the same." And Johann directly questioned him, "Where is the King Apple's husband right now?" Being interrogated by Johann, the brown-haired man trembled at that. Then he panicked and grabbed Sujin. "You explain it." She flinched and whispered, "Are you kidding me? Why is my senior hiding behind me?" The brown-haired man's face turned pale with fear. Who would have thought he'd actually bring a sword? "I have a family at home." Hearing his answer, Sujin thought disappointedly, "So there are no reliable seniors here." She had no choice but to bite the bullet and speak up. "If you've met our boss, then you should know." Although terrified, Sujin resolutely defended the company's principles. "We couriers never sell customer information." He praised her very good, quite the tough talker. But after she finished speaking, her limbs were trembling all over while he coldly drew his sword. "I see, so that's how it is. I wanted to resolve this easily, but it seems that won't be possible." They hugged each other and cried their eyes out, "We're going to die. Please don't kill us." However, he didn't attack them, but surprisingly, Johann stabbed the tip of his sword hard into the floor. Immediately after the sword pointed eastward, having found his direction, he turned to leave. "I'll find it," using my intuition, leaving them stunned. Unable to contain her curiosity, Sujin quietly asked, "Intuition, what do you mean?" The brown-haired man explained to her, "The life of a sword saint is completely different from ours. I heard that Sir Johann has solved many problems that way." This made it hard for Sujin to believe, can someone really have such an ability? One night, under a bright full moon, Chansu kept watching the entrance. He hasn't arrived yet. The wait was making him weary. It sounded so urgent. I was so worried because she had informed me that a sword saint would be visiting this blog soon. Chansu mumbled boredly, "I thought even a sword saint would have travel restrictions. Even a package gets delivered in 2 days." When his patience was running out, the system announced that someone had entered this blog's gate. He couldn't contain his joy and quickly stood up. "Speak of the devil and he shall appear. He's finally here." That was the notification, but the gate remained tightly shut. Chansu wondered suspiciously, "Is it a bug? Aren't all visitors supposed to come through this gate?" After checking for a moment, he concluded that it didn't seem to be a system error, so Chansu decided it was better to check the surroundings just in case. After a look around, he discovered something strange. The blocker was split open with a very long crack in mid-air. Seeing this sight, Chansu was stunned. He split the blog's border in two. Is that even possible? Through that crack, a person entered with steady steps. The shining light further highlighted the color of Johann's hair. Looking at the powerfully charismatic man before him, he wondered, "Is that person Sword Saint Johann?" While Chansu was still dazed, he spoke up. "Are you the one who grows emperor apples?" First, he smiled and greeted him. "You're Johann, right?" "I'm Chansu. What brings you all the way here?" "You've come to the right place," Johann said bluntly. "I've come to buy apples." Chansu thought to himself, so direct, but seeing money knocking, he warmly asked, "How many do you need?" He estimated 100 or 200 apples, if possible. Hearing the request, he exclaimed in shock, "What? That's impossible. The maximum is 50 apples. That's the absolute limit." This made Johann sadly say, "I see." Chansu thought to himself, he looks so dejected, it must just be my imagination. Right, he began the negotiation. "So what about the price?" He immediately stated, "I know it's 200,000 gao per apple." The price was agreed, but Chansu was still hesitant. "But we don't have packaging services here." Johann agreed, "That's fine." He was a bit confused. "That's the department store price, you know." He still accepted it, I know, seeing how agreeable he was. Chansu silently wondered, should I sell him 100 apples? Inside the block, the atmosphere was completely silent as he led Johann through the apple forest. As they walked together, Chansu thought it was the same when he arrived. Not one bit of change in his expression. Is this the composure of a sword saint? But little did he know that despite his cold exterior, he was drooling on the inside, but those apples do look delicious. At the same time, Chansu called out, like I said, 50 apples. Is that all right? As he prepared to harvest the apples, the system announced the skill, Blessing of Prosperity, has been activated. Instantly, a plump, juicy apple appeared dangling from the tree. And right after, a whole bunch of Emperor apples ripened, weighing down the branches. After seeing the ripe apples, he said, I need to harvest the apples. Now please wait a moment. Seeing Chansu preparing to climb the tree to pick them, Johan called out to him, Please step back. This left him bewildered, and before he could even register it, he saw him dash forward like lightning. Gleaming sword strokes flashed, and in an instant the plump red apples had left the tree. When he was finished, Johan sheathed his sword. Seeing the apples fly, one by one, straight into his bag, Chansu's jaw dropped. At this point, this is just hacking, isn't it? Before long, the system announced you have received 10 million Gao Gao. With the payment complete, Johan promised I'll be back next time. Seeing him about to leave, Chansu quickly called out, Wait a minute. Now he was secretly hatching a plan. The bugs in the previous Block C are probably fine, so I already ordered an insect repelling stick, but I still don't know what the next Block C is like. Having Johan along would surely be a great help. He even has a free pass. And so Chansu made an offer. Are you interested in any other agricultural products? I grew them myself. I'm sure you'll like them. He asked indifferently what products. He started to list them off. Very delicious potatoes, and Johan was blunt, not interested. To sweet potatoes, he was just as cold, not interested. I also grow beans. Johan flatly refused, really not interested. I'll be on my way then. Inwardly, Chansu screamed. If he leaves now, it's all over. So he hastily shouted apples. Fearing the opportunity would slip away, he immediately proposed, I'll give you more apples. Chansu decided to sell more because he thought that. Although he's strange, he doesn't seem like a bad person. And so he honestly explained, actually, to provide a stable supply of Emperor apples, I need to capture another block gate, stating his desire frankly. So I'd like to ask for your help. I'll pay you in apples, sir. Johan's expression turned dark. Chansu worriedly thought to himself, was that too much to ask? After a moment of thought, Johan spoke, a stable supply, huh? He suddenly spun back around, making him jump. Johan held up 2 fingers. Chansu hesitated. So do you mean 20 apples? He nodded in reply, since he understood what he wanted. The deal was made. Johan changed direction and headed off. Chansu ran after him, panting, You move so fast. Meanwhile, he thought to himself, I didn't think it would come so soon. Just how strong is he? Is he invincible? There, the mud underfoot was rich and soft. Chansu wondered to himself, it's so fertile here. Why is only my block so barren? The ground was full of sludge, making it difficult to move. Annoyed by the mud, he sighed. I should have brought boots before turning to check on him. Are you okay, Johan? Just then, Chansu noticed something unusual. A monster. In a flash, Johan grabbed him and ran from that spot. Having temporarily escaped danger, he instructed, Stay behind me. Danger? But Chansu was thinking to himself that Johan was the real danger. At the same time, he wondered, but was that a monster? Chansu was skeptical because it looked more like a plant. Still, it seemed quite ferocious, so he said, It's okay, Johan. This is the block I'm going to manage after all. Then the system announced, Ting Yu can activate the hidden skill. This made Chansu completely confident. Leave it to me, he shouted as streaks of light shot through the air. The system announced that the Blessing of Prosperity skill had been activated. Elsewhere, as golden sunlight illuminated the forest, a voice complained, My winged sandals. The one complaining was Sujin. I get soaked every time I come here. It's so annoying I can't even open a portal myself. With the help of her winged shoes, she zipped through the air, avoiding the mud puddles. As she was moving, Sujin heard someone call her, Hey, Sujin. She cheerfully greeted back, Oh, Chansu. However, Sujin froze. It was because she saw Johan with a cold expression tilling the soil alongside him. Sujin couldn't believe her eyes. What is going on? What is this scene? A surprised Sujin approached them and asked, What on earth happened here? Chansu said cheerfully, Didn't you tell me I should take over the neighboring C block? I thought I'd take over a C block and say hello to you at the same time. Hearing this, Sujin reacted strongly. That's not it. She leaned close to Chansu's ear and whispered no. Why are you with that guy? He glanced over and mumbled, Well, actually. A sudden powerful impact had split that huge tree in 2. Chansu gave a forced smile and walked over. It's finally done. You've been waiting a while, haven't you? But Johan remained silent, not giving an answer. A moment later, Johan said seriously, I'm curious about the taste of apples grown here. Chansu smiled and replied, But there's no land here to plant trees. It's all water. Suddenly, Johan crouched down and powerfully swung the sword in his hand. Right after that, the ground beneath their feet quickly parted to both sides. Startled, Chansu clutched his chest in shock. So this is what using a hack feels like. He sat down next to a sapling and said with a slight tremble, "We'll probably be seeing each other often, so feel free to talk to me casually." A notification panel appeared. "The blessing of prosperity skill has been cast." Chansu scratched his head sheepishly, and that's what happened. But Sujin seemed furious, muttering to herself, "What do you mean that's what happened?" Not understanding at all, she walked up to that big tall tree, looked up and asked, "So, this is an apple tree, right?" Suddenly, Sujin quickly covered her nose, looking uncomfortable. "It has a slightly strange smell. No, a very strange smell." Chanso laughed helplessly and replied, "It's a bit unusual, isn't it?" He looked up at the plump red apples on the tree and explained perhaps because of the environment, these apples have twice the flavor and aroma. Depending on where I use the growth points, the flavor changes, so I'm still experimenting. Chanso gently picked one and offered, "Would you like to try one?" But Sujin's face darkened. She pinched her nose tightly and backed away no. Suddenly, she glanced to the side and calmed down. She looked down at the ground and asked curiously, "So these are the carnivorous plants you caught, huh?" And Chansu was also stunned to hear this. "Is that what they're called?" Sujin crouched down and took a test tube from her bag. She then thought this type of monster behaves like an ostrich. They only move at night and are notoriously hard to catch. She picked up a carnivorous plant. Then she gently squeezed its fluid drop by drop into the test tube. It's in good condition, but why is it this good? After collecting the fluid, Sujin held the tube up to observe it and then asked Mr. Chansu, "Did you hunt all these plants yourself?" "Yes, that's right." "Didn't Sir Johan hunt any?" Chansu walked over in surprise and asked back, "Is there a problem?" Suddenly, a hand shot out and grabbed his tightly. Sujin abruptly shouted, "Then of course you're going to sell them, right? This isn't my specialty." "But they're worth a high price." But Chansu exclaimed in fear, "I'll sell them, I'll sell them." He looked helplessly at his poor hand and lamented, "Lucky it's not broken." Then Sujin gently turned to look at Chansu. He looked dejectedly at Johan, who was enjoying an apple, and thought to himself, "Skilled in both combat and farming, and he even has the Sword Saint with him. From the very start, he was completely beyond common sense, but I'm truly glad I met him." Meanwhile, Sujin was lost in thought about 100 apples, the carnivorous plant sap, and the upcoming new harvests, when suddenly someone called her name loudly. "Miss Sujin." Sujin jumped. "Yes, what is it?" Chansu said gently. "The supplies I ordered. I need to plant the insect-repelling plants and build the new house before I go." And she blushed clumsily, rummaging through her handbag. "Oh, right, I'll give them to you now, just a moment." A moment later, Sujin took out a few packets of seeds. "These are the insect-repelling plant seeds, and this is the construction kit." Chansu smiled and rolled up his sleeves. "Please wait a moment." Opposite him was a small wooden cabin, an adventurer's mobile home. The insect-repelling plants were pyrethrum, mint, and catnip. Sujin thought worriedly as she walked away. "All right, then. The construction kit makes sense, but is he going to plant the seeds right away?" Sujin stared intently at Chanso, wondering suspiciously, who really is this person? Inside, small creatures were playing happily. The temple was still shabby, but today marked a historic day. The system panel announced, "Would you like to purchase the ownership of this blocker?" Immediately after the information appeared, Blocker 3610E has been merged with the Prosperity Blocker. Chanso cheered playfully. "Finally, I own it after using 100 tokens. He smiled, sat down to pet the small creatures, and thought the purchase limit is 10 tokens per day, so it took me 10 days, and now I'm finally the official owner. Paid for with my own money. The blockers appeared clustered together. A normal blocker worth 100 tokens guarantees ownership of it all. Chanso rubbed his nose and thought, in the real world I could only afford a single room, huh? But this feeling here is so satisfying. Then he stared intently at the system panel and began his analysis. "Now that I've bought Block C, new features have been unlocked. The most important of which is the Block C attribute system, which suggests subsequent attributes based on the blogger's nature." Chanso carefully and slowly touched the system panel. According to the hint, this blogger was deemed suitable for a goddess. Right after that, the system panel turned to the next page. "Please select an attribute to grant to this blogger. Growth. Death." Chanso smiled. "As expected of our goddess, I can't be careless for even 1 second." He touched the system panel. "Growth seems better than death, doesn't it? It can also help the goddess develop." Right after, a notification appeared. "The growth attribute has been granted to blogger 36N102. He gazed at the scene before him. "The grass looks greener, doesn't it?" Hamzoli, the goddess Aji, and Doji were extremely excited. Not much has changed, and Chanso also beamed. Perhaps it's because it's only at level 1 since there's an upgrade system. "So cute." He looked at the system panel again and touched the system window. The listed effects were growth for plants, animals, and skill growth. And suddenly a tense Chanso shouted monster growth appeared, a pristine wilderness suddenly materialized. At this moment, Chanso holding a scythe moved forward. Due to this powerful attribute, there's both good news and bad news. Goblins suddenly appeared. The bad news is that the immortal goblins have received the growth effect. His eyes became determined. The good news is, right after that, Chanso lunged forward, slashing powerfully. For now, it's still manageable. Under the scorching sun, Chanso wiped away his sweat and thought. And the growth also increases the bonus points. Suddenly, someone holding a sword appeared behind Chanso. Johann approached, surprising Chanso, who asked, "When did you get here?" He coldly replied, "Just now." Chanso then put on an innocent face and asked, "Didn't we agree to drop the formalities?" Johann looked away and replied, "I'm still not used to it." Chanso asked bluntly, "Anyway, the fact that you came looking for me means you've eaten all the apples, right?" But Johann immediately refuted. "It's not that I've finished them all." Chanso continued, "It hasn't even been 1 week since you bought the second batch." He worriedly wondered, could he die from eating too many apples? Then Chanso turned away and asked, "So how many do you need this time?" Johann also strode along, as many as possible. The taste has changed a little due to the blogger's new attribute. "Is that okay? The apples taste a bit different now." Chanso smiled, turned back, and said, "I'll let you have a free sample." Johann was quick to receive one. On a peaceful afternoon, Hamzoli, the goddess Aji, and Doji were enjoying a picnic here as a group. The little creatures played carefree. They looked so happy. It was so peaceful. Suddenly, footsteps approached. But will they still be smiling when the next event unfolds? It was Chanso and Johann. The two of them quickly approached. His face was filled with surprise. "Goddesses! Why are you all here?" Aji stared and wondered. "And who is that guy?" Johann was casually looking around. "I feel like something's not right." Aji stared in fear. "Is he a butcher?" She jumped in shock as she saw him draw his sword. Johann's face became incredibly menacing. "You're very lucky. What interesting pets you have there." Chanso also sensed the impending danger and shouted, "Wait, Johann!" He didn't answer and raised his sword high. Johann swung down hard, forcing Chanso to dive and cover the small creatures. He tumbled to the ground, completely taken by surprise. A red apple lay rolling on the ground. The other apples on the tree also began to shake. Chanso turned to look and then smiled. "So he was just harvesting apples. Would it kill you to give a warning?" But Chanso remained in his protective posture over the small creatures. It seems Johann hasn't realized the goddess's presence since he called them pets. Johann continued to swing his sword to harvest apples and said, "Although I'm not sure. But when I swung my sword, I knew. The apples are flying everywhere. This blogger has the growth attribute, doesn't it?" Then Johann made an offer. "Let me stay here. I will pay while I train." Hearing those words, Chanso was startled and turned to ask money. He unconsciously asked, "How much do you mean?" Johann quickly gave a price. 9,929,420 gold per month. Hearing that, Chanso, along with Hamzoli, the goddess Aji, and Doji, were flabbergasted. He shot up and hurriedly shook Johann's hand, showing his agreement. Chanso's eyes were blinded by money as he said cheerfully, "Welcome, our VIP customer." Then Chanso clasped his hands together emotionally, thinking to himself, so the money for the apples was just a drop in the ocean. The monthly rent is many times higher. Johann, standing opposite him, suddenly asked, "So is that okay?" He quickly replied, "Ah yes, but if the sword saint trains." Chanso continued speaking while imagining the ground cracking. Would it be like heaven and earth? Suddenly being split in two, he gently denied it. He then worriedly waved his arms and legs, describing another scene or things getting smashed and sent flying everywhere. Johann denied it again. "It is not like that." Chanso raised an eyebrow and continued, "But I can't give you the blocker either. I do not have points to spare." He closed his eyes and turned away. "No need." Johann reached out and pointed to a tree not far away. "Just give me that small corner over there." Chanso looked in that direction and was surprised. "Is that really all you need?" He immediately nodded yes. He placed a hand on his chin and parted his lips to agree, "All right then." But Chanso looked straight at Johann and stated directly, "Actually, I have another request besides money." He placed a hand on his chest and seriously proposed, "I want to ask for your protection, Johann." An image of a healthy green tree growing among interlocking squares suddenly appeared. "The nature of this world is to occupy Block C. I do not know when a conflict will erupt." And Chanso looked down at the small Johann in his hand and could not help but think what could be better than being protected by the Sword Saint Johann, one of the strongest people in the world. Level 100, Sword Saint level 100. The amount of money is quite large, so it is a bit of a shame. He lowered his eyes slightly, telling himself, but I have to become a regressor. Johann suddenly spoke up, stating a condition. If you can enhance the effect of skill growth, then I will consider it. Chanso raised both fists and happily blurted out a specific number, 50,000 points per day, and provide 10 apples. At the mention of apples, his eyes suddenly sharpened. The apples can be bought separately, right? Hearing that, he hesitated a little before replying, yes, while thinking to himself, just how many apples do you eat in a day? Behind him, Aji was staring daggers at him without looking away, while Doji looked on worriedly. Aji raised a tiny wing and chirped a few times. What are you saying? Doji, with teary eyes, also chirped a few times in reply. It seems that person will be living here from now on. Meanwhile, Chanso was smiling brightly, thinking to himself, the Sword Saint will protect us, the goddess will surely be very happy. But as soon as he turned his head, he saw the little pets with their heads bowed down gloomily. Are they all introverts? Chanso suddenly spoke up with a suggestion, startling the pets. Do you want to say hello? These are my pets. As the figure slowly approached them, their faces turned pale with fear. Come on, you guys say hello too. Besides them, Johann stared intently at them and then made a cold, emotionless face. Just a second later, the little pets were scared and ran away together. Chanso forced a smile and explained, it seems they are a bit shy. He also remained silent and contemplative. Chanso suddenly spoke, causing Johann to look up slightly. By the way, Johann. Chanso smiled and uttered a sentence, I have my first request. A moment later, Chanso's sneakers stepped into a green puddle. 35N89E, the carnivorous plant blocker inside that blocker. He carried a large fruit basket to the base of that tree, followed by Johann, who was also slowly approaching. Chanso glanced at him, engrossed in eating an apple, and thought helplessly. He is obsessed with apples again. The next moment, he cheerfully opened the system window. After all, for this blocker, if he bought the remaining ownership rights, his long, slender index finger immediately pressed agree on the blue screen. It will become a prosperous land. Blocker 3, 5, and 9E has become the property of the god of prosperity. Just as the system notification sounded, Johann suddenly drew his sword. Startled, Chanso turned to look at him in confusion. Johann frowning warily, he said, there's something here. He wondered as well, following Johann's gaze. Is there something over there? As the two watched intently, a few sounds began to emanate from a nearby flower bush, as if confirming their suspicions. A few small, white-blossomed flowers swayed gently. A plump black cat was lying on its back in front of them. A cat. The image of Ham Jolly suddenly flashed through his mind, making him think, come to think of it, I've never seen any other animals here. It must be a type of monster like the piggy banks, huh? That black cat was still comfortably hugging a flower and happily licking its leaves. It doesn't look very dangerous. Seeing Chanso suddenly step forward, Johann paused and said, wait. Smiling, Chanso gently scratched the cat's back. It's tamer and cuter than I thought. Just then, the black cat suddenly froze under Chanso's hand. It stared at him with wide, bewildered eyes. Immediately after, it flew into a rage, jumping up and showing endless hostility towards the two strangers. The black cat hissed, and a frightened Chanso hid behind Johann in a flash. What happened all of a sudden? At that very moment, the system window suddenly appeared again. What is this? It stared intently at the two of them. An apostle of the god of negation has declared war on blocker 3, 5, and 9E. After reading the notification, Chanso was so shocked his jaw dropped. Did war get declared on us just because I pet it? He squeezed his eyes shut as two streams of tears fell. Johann is this cat, an apostle of the god of negation. You really think so? Johann asked back in confusion. What are you suddenly talking about? Chanso explained awkwardly, an apostle of the god of negation declared war. It must be mad because I touched it without asking. He looked down at the cat, completely bewildered. But to suddenly declare a life-or-death war with this cat. As he turned away, Johann denied it. It's not the cat. He glanced back at Chanso and continued. Since war has been declared, they will probably appear at the blocker's border soon. And they will be people. Real people, Chanso exclaimed in surprise, a worried thought crossing his mind. Fighting monsters is one thing, but fighting people is... Johann's next words sent a shock through Chanso. Killing is fine. What he gasped in disbelief as Johann calmly added with his eyes closed. It's fine to kill the followers of the god of negation. Even so, it can't be that easy. Hearing this, Johann glanced at him. They'll respawn at their temple. Chanso was so shocked he was speechless for a few seconds. Respawn. Yeah, Johann replied calmly. Like a save point in a game, he asked. Yeah. Hearing that confirmation made Chanso's eyes burn with rage. Respawn! That's not fair at all! Other people die after a single mistake, the resentful farmer thought, but they can just slaughter people and then respawn fine then. Bring it on. He gripped the sickle in his hand, a fire of determination blazing in his eyes. Johan, will you help me fight? Seeing Chanso like this, Johan was silent for a moment, then replied, all right. Chanso immediately exclaimed, then let's go. At that same time, at a blue teleportation gate somewhere, a few skeletons in tattered rags suddenly appeared in the block flag forest, leading the way with weapons, while behind them 3 people emerged from a teleportation gate. One of the 3, a man with his hair tied up, held a megaphone and shouted, "Show yourself, King Apple Farmer!" Scene changed to a modern city with glass panes gleaming under the sun at the headquarters. Sujin plopped down on the sofa and sighed, I'm sure I said that. The memory of her conversation with Johan suddenly flooded her mind. I'm not too sure Sujin had thought of Chansu as she asked, but is Mr. Chansu a formidable person? Meanwhile, Johan seemed to have misunderstood her and thought of an apple, replying that it was truly special. Sujin anxiously bit her lip, thinking to herself, the client Mr. Chansu is a powerful individual acknowledged by the Sword Saint. How can he be skilled in both swordsmanship and farming? An image of Chansu holding a scythe then appeared in her mind. He only looks to be in his late 20s, yet he can master so many different skills to the highest level. Sujin squinted slightly and thought, if he isn't someone from the 2nd or 3rd Great Summoning who was rejuvenated, then it's hard to understand the most recent one was the 5th. So then, as expected, her train of thought continued as a new concept popped into her mind, a divine artifact. Divine artifacts are items created for those close to the gods, or are relics of dead gods. One can borrow divine power from those items. Sujin crossed her arms with question marks filling her head. But if you're not compatible with the god, it's hard to use a divine artifact in the end. She tiredly leaned back. I don't know anymore what's going to happen now. Sujin casually smiled and mumbled. And then he suddenly says he's really living with the Sword Saint just then. A loud explosion suddenly rang out. She looked in confusion toward the newcomer amidst the thick smoke and dust filling the room. Elsu, looking tattered, frowned. He brushed his bangs back, then his sharp, light purple eyes suddenly darted toward Sujin, while Sujin's eyes widened in fear, thinking, what is it? What's happening? He just looked at me, right? Why is he coming this way? Elsu suddenly held a test tube in front of her, making her jump. She looked at the glowing liquid near the bottom of the tube and immediately thought, Isn't this the carnivorous plant sap that I brought back? Elsu suddenly glared and yelled, Where on earth did you get this? Startled by his shouting, Sujin immediately burst into tears with snot and tears streaming down her face. She screamed internally. What is it now? Suddenly, a blue teleportation circle appeared. A group of soldiers looking like Skylar emerged from the circle, followed by a group of mysterious people whose faces couldn't be seen clearly. Chanso and Johan were hiding behind a bush. Chanso asked doubtfully, Are they here to scout? His swordsman friend, who was eating a gigantic apple, replied, Who knows? Chanso was so worried that he was already imagining a terrible scenario. If the undead obtained civilization, that mob would scream madly, This is modern civilization, take this! With that thought, he tried to reassure himself that this was ridiculous. While he was lost in thought, a loud shout rang out, King Apple Farmer, show yourself! The man with the bun, who had come from the teleportation gate, had now advanced deeper with his companions. He uncomfortably lifted his foot and said, Why is this area so waterlogged? Then he used the megaphone to demand, Come out and let's help each other for the mutual benefit of both sides. Chanso wondered in confusion, what is this? Why are they so defenseless? But then he tried to convince himself that they were probably just doing what they wanted since they were strong anyway. Johan behind him seemed to agree, which made sense. At that moment, he continued to ponder. It's so frustrating having so little information, but however I have him. Chansol glanced at the person behind him who seemed to be shining brightly. Thinking of Johan by his side, he slowly began to feel at ease. Even if things get worse, it'll be okay. Right, I'm putting all my faith in you. Outside, the guy with the top knot who was waiting suddenly looked ahead. He watched him slowly approach and wondered in amazement, what's with him? Is he all alone? His gaze then shifted down to Chansol's hand where he saw a sharp, gleaming sickle. He grew suspicious and, what's with that scythe? But then he made an annoyed face and commanded, Are you the owner here? Stop wasting time and bring out the Emperor apples. Hearing this, Chansol's hand tightened on the sickle's handle. The undead moved forward to protect their master while the guy with the top knot stepped back, flustered, shouting, Can't you see there are more of us? What do you plan to do with that rusty old scythe, huh? He silently observed the situation, counting their numbers. 0 new undead were summoned, and there were no signs of preparation for a long-range attack. The guy with the top knot was now growing impatient. When he didn't answer, the man shouted in anger, "We are the apostles of the god of negation, the ones who torture others to death." Chansol gave a friendly smile and explained, "I was worried because you're the biggest faction, but it turns out you're just a bunch of thugs who rely on your connections." The men were immediately stunned by the farmer's words. His thoughts were now filled with confidence. The god of negation is too much for me to handle. But the sword saint is right here. The top-knot guy's face turned purple as he gritted his teeth and said, "This is your last chance. Bring out the emperor apples right now or else." In response, he calmly replied, "If you want apples, you should go to a department store. Why come to a place like this and cause trouble, huh?" The other guy, seemingly losing control, shot back, "Are you ready to face the consequences?" Chansol taunted him with a straight face. "You sure ask a lot of questions. If you're looking for someone who can answer all your questions, you should go home and ask your mother." But then he feigned surprise and exclaimed, "Oh, my apologies." His words were like a slap to the top-knot guy's face. "I'm sure she's not in this world, right?" While the guy was trembling with rage, the undead whispered among themselves, "Insulting his mother is going too far. Just because we're invading, that's too harsh." Chansol, not understanding, exclaimed, "Huh?" For a moment, the farmer realized the issue and frantically explained, "Wait, no, that's not what I meant. I meant in this world, what are the chances she would have been brought to the same one? That's what I meant, and me too." The top-knot guy's face flushed red as he screamed, "Kill him." The undead continued to whisper, "This is clearly self-defense." Chansol, nearly in despair, tried to explain, "No, I really didn't mean it like that." Scene changed to Elsu and Sujin. He moved close to the female merchant's seat, pleading, "Please, just tell me one thing." He earnestly held up a glass vial containing a liquid. Then he questioned this tree sap. "Did Johann collect it?" Sujin, flustered and evasive, answered no. "It wasn't Elsu." His face still serious, asked again, so it was someone else. She immediately stammered, That's right." He calmly continued, "Customer information is confidential. I apologize." He stood up, keeping his distance from Sujin, his words loaded with meaning. "I'm sorry I asked an unnecessary question." Then Elsu wondered in that case. "There won't be any additional fees, right?" She replied, Yes, probably so." His face looked utterly haggard, but he still smiled brightly and announced, as luck would have it, "We cannot afford to continue accepting this supply. At this price..." His purple eyes were full of calculation as he thought, "I absolutely will not let this slip through my fingers." Then, without missing a beat, Elsu said to Sujin, "As you know, carnivorous plant sap has a high degradation rate, so it's very difficult to maintain its purity, not to mention how hard it is to harvest." Then he held up the vial of glowing pink liquid. "However, the sap you brought back can maintain a higher purity than anything else that we have ever seen before." Elsu reached into his pocket and pulled out a stack of papers. "I don't know what method you used to collect this, but..." He placed them on the table and proposed, "Can you continue to supply it to us?" Sujin took the documents, read them, and replied, "I'll have to ask first, but it should be possible." Hearing that, he immediately proposed, "Then let's sign a temporary contract, at the very least." As she looked up, Elsu continued, and he gave a meaningful wink and a pleading smile. "Please tell that person that the Alchemist Guild will always welcome him back." Meanwhile, Chanso was being attacked by a horde of undead. The man with the top knot angrily ordered, "Execute those who dare to mock the god of denial and our pride." Chanso, struggling to fend them off, tried to explain, "I told you that's not what I meant." He now realized that it seemed this couldn't be resolved with words. "I guess I'll have to clean this mess up first." The man with the top knot saw his attitude and became even more furious, wondering, he's not even faltering, why is he so confident? Just as the battle was about to begin, this farmer fellow suddenly asked, "By the way, all these undead, were they all mass-produced from the same factory?" As soon as the words left his mouth, he instantly activated his skill. Activating mass decapitation slashes simultaneously cut through the necks of the undead. After finishing the move, he even spun his scythe artfully on a single finger. With the fight over, he felt even more confident. This is perfect for skill practice. The man with the top knot never expected him to be this strong. He immediately screamed, "This is absurd!" But as he looked up, skulls and shattered bone fragments rained down, and his face instantly went pale, freezing him in place. In an instant, the skeletons collapsed in a heap on the ground, much to his astonishment. His expressive face turned ashen. "What is this?" Chanso placed his foot on one of the skeletons and explained, "They're much weaker than I thought, probably because they're all just bones." With that same friendly smile, the farmer fellow asked again, "So are you going to surrender?" The guy with the top knot gritted his teeth, cursing, "Useless piece of trash." But then he took out a mysterious purple bracelet, saying, "I admit I never expected to have to summon this thing. But as soon as the stone on the bracelet shattered, he screamed, "You should feel honored." In an instant, a large magic circle appeared on the ground with the summoning chant, Herculeser, and immediately a black shadow emerged from the circle so large that he had to crane his neck to look up. Seeing this, the other guy gloated, "Ooh, haha, how do you like my Herculeser, huh?" A mutant titan with one human head and one lion head appeared before him, but completely contrary to the expected reaction, Chanso calmly remarked, "This is so different from what I imagined." The other guy immediately pointed and roared, "Don't you dare insult my masterpiece. This is the ultimate weapon forged from 30 million growls and 100,000 points." With his sharp command, "Go Herculeser," the monster immediately rushed towards him while Chanso was distracted, thinking 30 million growls and 100,000 points, huh? And yet he was able to both think and dodge the monster's attack. "So that's about 200 Emperor Apples, huh?" The monster continuously rushed in to attack, letting out some kind of roar. In one move, it bent down to crush Chanso's body, and he smiled, saying, "How nice of you to bow down on your own." In that instant, a streak of white light flashed across the monster's neck. It was Chanso's doing as he effortlessly executed the deformed monster. Without using any effort at all, he watched the monster's body fall while the guy with the top knot trembled and cried out, "Impossible, my Herculeser," as the monster dissolved into nothing. Chanso added fuel to the fire, 15 efforts for one. The guy with the top knot suddenly turned around and called out, "Hey!" He shouted resentfully at a stylish woman with purple hair. "Why are you just standing there and watching? Things have already gotten this bad." This person was Kim Suji, the fourth-generation apostle of the god of negation. She sneered and retorted, "You were the one who stepped out so confidently, so why are you complaining now?" Then she glanced around with an annoyed expression, "So troublesome anyway, this counts as overtime, right? My role is just to be the guide on this side." Chanso landed feeling a bit suspicious. Is it really over? Even I would have trouble with Phase 3. As he looked up, he immediately froze at the person standing before him. Chanso looked at the woman's cold face and spoke. "And here I thought you were just a side character." Her crimson eyes instantly flared, glaring as if to control Chanso. He immediately sensed something abnormal, and at that moment a yellow warning notification appeared. Facing the purple-haired woman's excited expression, the notification read, "Opponent is using the skill Negation of Life to curse the target." His face and eyes immediately grew weary. But he still managed to force out the words, "Ah, so you're an important character after all." The system still didn't forget to remind him with a danger warning as Suji activated her skill. A gloomy, demonic aura surrounding her spread to Chanso, causing him to collapse to the ground, exhausted, his body trembling uncontrollably. Seeing this, the boss struggled to his feet, satisfied. He aggressively taunted him, "That's right, you should have thought twice before acting. This is the consequence for daring to insult the god of negation." Chanso's whole body felt heavy and numb, unable to move. His consciousness began to grow hazy, but seeing this opportunity, the boss clicked his tongue and took off running. As he fled, he didn't forget to boast, "Just you wait, I'll get my revenge for Herculeser." Gentle sunlight filtered through the lush green leaves. The boss ran along the muddy road, looking around and sniffing the air, thinking to himself, a faint scent of Emperor Apples. So the old squad was here. Now it is only a matter of time before I find them. He ran off the muddy road to a dry area with lush foliage when suddenly Johann and 6 others flickered in and out of sight behind him, bumping into the bushes and making a sound. Hearing a strange noise, the boss froze for a moment, then cautiously turned back, looking around nervously and shouting, "Who's there?" While he was defensively searching around, he thought, "Is someone else hiding here? Damn it, where did he go?" Just then, Johann had already leaped into the air to get away. The boss heard a strange noise once again. He immediately looked up towards the sound to see Johann rushing towards him. The boss's eyes widened in shock as he thought, red hair and a black sword. It can't be. It is him. He quickly realized the person rushing at him was Johann, and seizing the opportunity before he could react, Johann landed a painful blow on his head. Meanwhile, in the center of an unfamiliar city, in a street packed with tall buildings and people, Chansu struggled to wake up, looking bewildered and clutching his head as he groaned, "My head." He sat stunned for a moment. He looked around at the scene before him, confused and bewildered, silently wondering what happened. "I am sure I was just fighting the apostle of the god of denial." His hand unconsciously touched the road surface as he whispered doubtfully, "This place." Only then did he turn and look down at the downtown street below, shouting in alarm. "This is Earth, right? The place where I used to clear weeds back in the day." Chansu composed himself and quickly stood up as 2 playful children ran past him, which made him even more puzzled. The scenery here is so different from the Earth I know. Even the young children are like this. While he was lost in thought, a familiar voice suddenly called out to him. "Oh, Chansu," and Chansu reflexively turned to see 2 familiar figures in a daze. They were smiling at him, and the woman asked in a voice both chiding and worried, "Where have you been, son?" Mom was so worried, dear, looking at the two people before him. Chansu couldn't believe his eyes, which welled up with tears as he hesitantly called out Mom, Dad, seemingly unable to wait any longer. He quickly ran towards them, hugging his parents tightly and sobbing like a child, tremblingly calling out Mom, Dad. As Chansu cried uncontrollably with tears streaming down his face, he choked out, "I missed you both so much. Where have you two been all these years?" Then he hurriedly asked them, "You won't leave again, right?" But the woman's arm on him suddenly dropped. The man turned his face away and the woman gently pushed him back. Neither of the two answered him. Chansu froze in shock, calling out Mom with tear streaks still on his cheeks. His whole body trembled as he tried to ask in a hoarse voice, "Where are you two going?" But the two of them still heartlessly walked away, leaving him alone, helplessly screaming and begging, "No, do not go, please do not go. Do not leave me all alone." Chansu reached for them, but their two figures grew more distant until they vanished. A hand shook him awake and he jolted up from that heart-wrenching nightmare. Tears streamed down his pale face as he gasped for breath, still trapped in the pain of the nightmare. Johan placed a hand on his shoulder, gently reassuring him it was just her illusion. "Calm down." As he spoke, Johan gently comforted Chansu, helping him regain his composure. Chansu stopped crying but still hadn't fully recovered his senses when Johan saw that he was doing better. He turned around to see Susie collapsed on her knees, grimacing as she clutched her injured arm, wondering in disbelief why the Sword Saint would be in a place like this. Suddenly, Chansu stood up. Holding a sharp rake, he staggered towards her. His body was still trembling, but his eyes were filled with a mixture of heartbreak and resentment. Yet he still couldn't bring himself to strike Susie. Johan, who had been watching without interfering, stood behind him, silently gripping the sword at his hip to guard against any surprises, and stomped his foot into the mud to gain momentum. Then he dashed past Chansu, lunging towards Susie. She panicked and yelled, "Wait!" Chansu, terrified, squeezed his eyes shut, not daring to look as Johan knocked Susie unconscious. The corrosive mud slowly swallowed her, and as she sank into the swamp, only the top of her head remained vaguely visible. Johan sheathed his sword and asked nonchalantly, "Did I go too far?" Wiping the tears from his lashes, Chansu said sincerely, "No, thank you, Johan." Then, looking at the devastation on the ground, he calmed himself and asked, "Should we head back for now? The cleanup can wait." Johan didn't answer his question, asking instead, "What's the plan going forward?" And Chansu honestly told him about his intentions. "We will become the strongest force in the world. For now, we will conquer all the neighboring regions." After saying that, he asked hesitantly, "Can I continue to ask for your help?" Johan agreed, but with a condition: you can pay the additional fee in apples. Upon hearing his acceptance, Chansu finally relaxed and promised cheerfully, "Thank you. I'll ask for your help whenever it's needed. I'll give you lots and lots of apples." The two of them returned to their humble home when suddenly Chansu noticed something by the chimney. He couldn't hide his surprise when he saw the black cat, the apostle of non-aggression, still rolling around on the ground, relaxing and enjoying the sun. Chansu quickly said, "I almost forgot." He bent down slightly, looking at the cat cheerfully, and asked Johan with curiosity, "So who is that cat anyway? It's so cute." Johan replied gravely, "That's the territory hunter, one of the 7 great calamities." Looking at the adorable round black cat sticking its tiny tongue out to lick a leaf and then processing Johan's words, Chansu froze solid, the rake falling from his slackened grip. He was completely speechless and the color drained from his face. "What a calamity!" he cried out in disbelief. Meanwhile, in a dark prison cell, the gang leader from earlier sat before a system screen receiving a notification. "You have been defeated in the challenge battle. Based on the results, because the power disparity with the god of negation was too great, an additional penalty will be applied to the challenge compensation. Please pay the compensation fee of 1 billion woof woof." Dense lines of text scrolled endlessly across the virtual screen, displaying the grim news. The gang leader angrily clenched his fists, shaking the iron bars and grinding his teeth. Lies, he cursed, roaring at the system that was due to the power disparity. The other side even had the Sword Saint, but he only received 2 cold words on the screen: "Request denied." The system then continued its notification. The responsible parties are unable to pay. The compensation will be converted into a debt owed to the god of negation. Seeing this, the gang leader shouted, "Wait!" He reached his hand out, trying to grab the screen. But it was useless. He could only roar in helpless, desperate negotiation, "No. I'll pay no matter what, I'll pay." Suddenly, he froze, looking up in fear as 2 skeletal figures appeared before his cell and walked in. One brought out a chair while the other restrained him. Despite his screams of let go of me, they held him fast. Then a pair of long, slender legs and high heels stepped into view. The woman's shrill voice scolded. "If you're going to feel ashamed, you should have made sure of your work. What are you blabbering about?" The gang leader, forced to his knees, looked up and clearly saw the person who had entered. He stammered and asked her why she was here. Choi Jan-ha, the fourth apostle of the god of denial, arrogantly sat down, glanced down at him, and threatened, "You'd better explain clearly what happened if you don't want to. Experience something even worse than death." As she said this, she gave a sinister smile, looking straight at the boss. He cautiously watched her expression and replied, "The Emperor Apple. I found the Emperor Apple Orchard." But Choi Jan-ha was not so easily convinced. She asked doubtfully, "That's not just a lie to save your skin, is it?" The boss eagerly raised his voice to prove it. "It's the truth. Johan, the Emperor Apple fanatic, was there too." But Choi Jan-ha still refused to believe it. Judging by the results, if Sword Fortress had also fought, the compensation wouldn't be at this level. Right. The boss was flustered, not knowing how to explain. He started speaking incoherently. "I'm telling the truth. The one who defeated the undead horde was a disciple of course. So that means Kim Suji lost too." Hearing that, Choi Jan-ha stood up and asked thoughtfully, "Kim Suji, she was there too." Choi Jan-ha slowly approached him and said sarcastically, "She must have participated as a mercenary, as a guide, for example." "What a pity. You are not responsible for this incident." At this point, she paused slightly, then let out a soft laugh. Her sinister eyes looked at the leader with amusement as she said, "But at least you've already tasted the pain of death. That satisfies me." Then she reached out and lifted his face, asking casually, "I just had a great idea. If they're farming, those two must be very short on manpower." "Right." As she spoke, she squeezed his face. A system sound rang out. "The god of denial requests to negotiate." Then Choi Jan-ha, with a sinister voice, gave the boss a new mission. "Take everyone and make them compensate with their own labor." As she finished speaking, the mechanical voice announced again until the negotiation is concluded. "The losing party will become prisoners." Choi Jan-ha let go of the boss's face. He shouted, questioning her, "What do you mean there can't be outsiders in the Emperor Apple Orchard?" Choi Jan-ha, not wanting to hear his nonsense, slyly enticed him, "But the truth is there are. Aren't you curious?" The boss immediately had a bad feeling. His face paled as he stared at her. Choi Jan-ha had no intention of persuading. It was an order for him delivered in that pleasant voice of hers. But it heartlessly uttered terrifying threats. How would it feel for a human to be turned into an undead? If you don't want to experience that for yourself. She trailed off, reaching out to toy with a strand of the leader's hair. After a few seconds, she coldly added, "Then get in there by any means necessary." This was her command to him, one that couldn't be refused, only obeyed. No one could resist it. The kitten Chan Exo excitedly asked another question. "Then what about that cat? What is its identity anyway? It's so cute." Johan's flat voice spoke up. "It is one of the 7 calamities. To think that this tiny creature playing with a blade of grass is the territory predator." The sickle in his hand fell amidst his own shock. Chanso's face was utterly stunned and dumbfounded. What a calamity. He hurriedly turned pale and hid, looking at the black cat licking its paw. "Are we going to be okay?" He remained calm, standing his ground and consoling, "It will be fine. If it had hostile intentions, something would have happened long ago." He couldn't help but wonder the opposite. What if it does have malicious intent? Johan quietly explained, "If so, it would devour our domain." Hearing such a dangerous thing made Chanso disbelieving. Why would it devour a domain? It is something that can be eaten. Huh. He hurriedly opened the system to check on the state of his domain. Confirming it was still there, he let out a sigh of relief. At least it has not eaten it yet. "It seems like it is not targeting my domain, so why did it come here?" Johan crunched on a large apple in his hand. "It is here to eat the catnip," and Chanso looked hesitantly at the tiny black cat. But it is not a real cat. Who knew that calamity would chew up all the catnip, It is actually getting smaller, no way. He cautiously reached out his hand towards a withered leaf to try it out. Once thus, his blossoming ability bloomed, blessing of prosperity the territory. Predator's face lit up, sparkling at the countless flowers before its eyes. It walked over and rubbed against Chanso's pant leg as if acknowledging him. He felt its gaze was intense as it rolled over onto its back, as it telling me to touch it. He dazedly reached out and gently stroked its soft, silky fur. The feeling was completely different from touching the large and soft Handan. Even so, Chanso still had to remind himself to be vigilant. But I should not be fooled by its appearance. It is a calamity, after all. It must have a terrifying form, too. While pampering it and scratching its chin, he whispered a proposition. "If you protect this area, I will let you eat as much catnip as you want. How about it?" It let out a meow of agreement. He turned to ask the expert, "Johan, it seems we will be living together for a long time. From now on, what should I call you?" He had finished chewing the apple and cleared his throat. The name Territory Predator is too long, so he simply shortened the phonetic name of the cat. Let's shorten it to Terry Pred, okay? It immediately bristled its fur. In strong protest, Chanso then conjured a bunch of catnip, suggesting how about we call it Night Sky. This time it did not growl, but just thumped its tail, as it asking me for an explanation. It is more human than a human, Chanso thought, as he slowly came up with a flowery comparison, because your fur is as beautiful as a night sky full of stars. And your eyes remind me of the bright moon. How is that? The cat let out a soft, small meow and then licked his hand, showing its approval. It seemed Night Sky was quite satisfied with this new name. Looks like everything has been resolved smoothly, huh? Said Johann, whose name suggestion was completely shunned. Yeah, what is wrong with the name Terry Pred? Chanso was speechless, unable to comment on that strange name. You really meant that, huh? Suddenly, a system notification popped up with a chime. You have won the battle with a victor's privilege. You have been awarded compensation worth 1 billion. He could not resist wanting to show off to Johann immediately. Johann, the compensation is 1 billion. Suddenly, the system window popped up again, stating that the opposing party had requested to negotiate until the talks were concluded. The loser will be captured as a prisoner of war. The money was taken back before it even reached my hands, which made him furious. What the heck? Give me back my 1 billion. A peaceful night fell upon their greenhouse. Bathed in starlight, Chanso couldn't sleep. He sat up, looking at the little ones, his soft, low voice breaking the silence. Oh, goddess, when I was first sent here, I was so scared and worried about so many things, but thanks to you all, I've had a wonderful time here. He mumbled to himself, reflecting on what had happened. Actually, I met my parents today. Chanso's heart was filled with an indescribable, complex mix of emotions. Even though it was just an illusion from a curse, it still made me feel happy. At that moment, he was truly joyful from the bottom of his heart. Maybe I missed them more than I thought. At that moment, he clenched his fist tightly. So I've made my decision. Chanso promised himself and the goddess that he would make prosperity the greatest power in this world. He tilted his head to look at the radish sleeping soundly beside him, his voice filled with sorrowful emotion as he promised to help her regain her original form. I promise. The goddess, half asleep, held his hand, tears unconsciously welling in her eyes, until Chanso had to face a frustrating situation first thing in the morning. Johann, are you really going to do that? He was so mad he wanted to grab his head and shove it down. How can you survive like this? A whole table of hot food and Johann hasn't touched a thing. Are you only going to eat apples? Chanso couldn't just sit and watch him anymore. Don't you know anything about protein, fat, and carbs? A balanced diet is essential, you know. And yet he just hugged his apple and turned away. It's not like I was trying to steal it. He let out a helpless, frustrated sigh and plopped down onto the chair. The other little creatures were happily munching on their food. There are so many delicious things in this world, but seeing Johann happily munching away on his apple just drove him mad. He won't even consider eating anything but apples. Johann peeked over at a despairing Chanso, then suddenly held out a skewer with a piece of apple on it. Johann looked extremely reluctant to share his food. Just one bite, no more. I'm not doing this because I want to eat it, okay, he yelled. I'm the one who grew them, for crying out loud, and Chanso, completely helpless, couldn't force him. Oh, whatever. Why should I even be worried about him? He's the sword saint. He can take care of himself. Seeing this, Johann started to nibble on the piece of apple himself. If you're not eating it, I will. He turned to check on the little animals. Did everyone enjoy your meal? Before he even finished asking, he saw them all lying around with full, round bellies. He then bent down and gently asked the goddess, "And you, was your food good?" The moment he said that, it sent a huge shock through all the little ones. He felt a little guilty having to address her like that. So Johann still doesn't know the goddess's true identity. Maybe she would forgive me for being a little informal, but she was completely petrified as Aji toddled out scolding, "How dare you speak so disrespectfully to the goddess?" Right after that came a barrage of insults from him. Just because you scored some points, you think you can do whatever you want now, huh? Chanso pretended to ignore these words. I'll just have to explain later. He tried to calm the little ones down, calm down, while Johann relaxed. Sipping a glass of pure emperor apple juice, the little pig's oinking voice sounded from behind the furious Aji. Wait a minute. He pushed up his glasses with a mysterious, intellectual look, having figured it out. Could it be that the apostle did that on purpose? Aji looked unconvinced, curious about the glasses he was wearing. What are you talking about? Where did you even get those glasses? He shook his short, stubby arms. You're so stupid. That swordsman doesn't even know who the goddess really is. Therefore, Doji, looking intellectual, pointed out the key detail here. But for the apostle to speak so formally to the goddess, isn't that just digging his own grave? Right after that, the small chicken wing reached out and grabbed his thick, fatty skin. Aji's expression terrifying as he threatened try using that mocking tone again and see what happens. His glasses fell off, causing Doji's intelligence to plummet. I want to eat an apple. Aji, feeling curious, put the glasses back on him. His expression immediately turning cheeky again. You may overlook this matter. And speak like a gentleman, can't you? With the glasses off, he looked completely innocent, but Aji didn't hesitate to beat up the little pig and smash the glasses. Chanso stood up, left them to it, and turned to look at Johan. He urged, can we go now? The goddess teared up, knowing he was preparing to leave. Miss Sujin will be here soon. He also left a message before he went. Well then, take good care of the house, okay? But then he noticed the goddess waving enthusiastically the goddess Chan, so awkwardly scratched his head, unsure of what to say. I didn't mention the battle because I was afraid she would forbid me from going out. It turns out she already knew everything. Perhaps the skull had already relayed the message. Even so, he had to leave. So he bent down and patted her head. I'll be back soon. Can you wait for me for a little while? Seeing him being so affectionate, Johan cleared his throat. He spoke with a serious tone. I have something to tell you. A puzzled Chanso followed him to the side. What is it? New information reached his ears. The flow of time is different in each world, even between Earth and this place. Time flows differently here, too. It was unclear what expression Johan was making. But he was sincere, so don't be in too much of a hurry, okay? Thanks to that, Chanso smiled contentedly and thanked him for everything. Are we really going now? From the corner of his eye, he still noticed the little ones staying behind at the other house. The tearful goddess and the little ones were waving at him. Suddenly, Chanso had a unique idea. Hamdan, you're coming with us too, right? He reached into his space pouch and pulled something out. Did you think I bought this just for show? Hamdan immediately ran over his eyes, sparkling with anticipation. It was a breathable ball made just for hamsters. Do you want to be with your pet hamster anytime, anywhere? Worry no more with this hamster carrier bag. You can go anywhere together. After everything was ready, Hamdan hopped around inside the bag. All right, shall we go now? They bid farewell to their safe domain to explore the outside. It is time to expand our territory. The door opened, connecting two different dimensions. Chanso stepped out, his face filled with wonder at this miracle. And Chanso looked at the simple modern door still standing open. Beyond it was a sky full of bright stars. He thought to himself now, even without a pass and Johan, traveling will not be a problem anymore. This door is the best. A voice rang out, drawing Chanso's attention. So you have arrived. Gentle sunlight shone down on Sujin. She was kneeling on one knee, stroking a black cat's back. I heard you fought the god of negation. I am so glad you are safe. And Chanso was also happy to see her. Oh, you are here early, he said with a bright smile, gesturing to Johan, who had just stepped out from the door behind him. Thanks to Johan's help, it was not as hard as I thought. Sujin's jaw dropped in disbelief as Chanso continued. He even agreed to take care of security for a while. She whispered in alarm. Why did the two of you show up together? He glanced at Johan, who was nonchalantly chewing on an apple beside him, and answered Sujin. Johan and I decided to live together for a while. She sighed, burying her face in her hands with a look of resignation. I kind of had a feeling, but I never thought that would actually happen. You are always full of surprises. Sujin looked down at the black cat purring at her feet and changed the subject. By the way, where did you bring this little one from? Chanso explained. It found its way here. Its name is Night Sky. Sujin started to reply, but paused when he held up the transparent ball containing ham jolly. It is really... She quickly finished her sentence, then came closer to greet the little hamster. Smart. Ham jolly, you are here too. Chanso chuckled as he watched her play with it. Yeah, I think it is incredibly cunning. He then remembered that epic fail. Smart enough to know that eating the territory core which sustains the catnip field would destroy the entire field. Chanso put Hamjali's glass ball on the ground. Sujin, standing nearby, shared her knowledge. Monsters that are both smart and cute like this are extremely rare. If you were to catch and sell it, you would get a lot of buyers. He replied while watching Hamjali roll the round ball toward Night Sky. But that might be a bit difficult. The little hamster excitedly rolled quickly towards the cat. Night Sky, holding a leaf in its mouth, merely gave Hamjali an indifferent glance. Sujin commented nonchalantly, if they are too hard to find, you can just set up a dungeon. Monsters will automatically gather inside the dungeon on their own. Chansu realized, so there was another way to use it like that. In his mind, he pictured the monster's shadow looking around in confusion, wondering where everyone had gone. Chansu stroked his chin thoughtfully. The current number of loyal customers is 443 people. There are definitely still many others out there. I might need this later. He turned to Sujin anyway, since it came from another region that might be a bit difficult. She looked over inquisitively another region from where Chansu replied it came here alone. So that's not clear either. Sujin was startled, her face slightly pale as she looked at him. Could it be a person who turned into a cat? Chansu explained to her, completely oblivious. Yakeon was opening its mouth, drooling on Hamjoli's glass ball. According to Johan, Yakeon is a territory devourer. Sujin, engrossed in their conversation, didn't notice the situation and asked again, a territory devourer. The little mouse jumped in fright. Chansu's voice carried over. Yeah, that's right. Sujin asked in confusion, is there really a monster with a name like that? Yakeon's expression was terrifying. Its mouth was drooling and one paw rested on the glass ball, scaring Hamjoli immensely. Chansu recalled, I don't think it's a monster. But one of the 7 great calamities. Sujin burst out laughing. Aha, so it's the territory devourer, is it? She suddenly grabbed his wrist tightly. Sujin, crying her eyes out, dragged Chansu and quickly warped to another spot. She screamed along with his loud yell, why is one of the 7 great calamities here? They both jumped into a bush. Sujin threw Chansu to the ground and shouted in a panic, there are even records that it doesn't just devour territories, but also destroys entire regions. My ostrich tail resin, why would that kind of calamity come all the way here? Then Chansu reluctantly pushed himself up. Well, for now, we're guessing it came for the catnip. Sujin looked at him confused. It's not a real cat, why would it stay put just for catnip? Chansu was stumped by the question. He offered his own judgment. I'm not sure about the whole story either, but perhaps it's something like this, Chansu began to explain. To conquer a region, you need at least 200,000 points. He remembered that pile of catnip. The blessing spread across the catnip field cost less than 10,000 points, and Chansu explained to her. On the surface, the difference is 20 times, but depending on the form, the absorption efficiency can differ. If you place the two side by side to compare, the difference becomes very clear. For example, if the ratio is 1 to 90 for Yakeon, this region would be worth 2,000 points, and the catnip would be worth 9,000 points, a difference of more than 3 times. One of his hands rested on a large tree root behind him. But of course that's not the exact ratio, and we also don't know if that's even true. Chansu pushed himself up from the ground, but as the chosen one, I really don't have any other choice. Sujin asked in a panic. You'll be okay, right? I don't want to one day. Come home and find everything has disappeared. Chansu wasn't too sure either cats are territorial animals, right? Maybe it will at least protect this area. Suddenly, a shrill cry cut through their conversation, making Chansu jump and look over. The round glass cage was shattered. He hurriedly ran towards the black cat Yakeon. No, stop! Chansu screamed upon seeing Yakeon gnawing on. The little mouse in its mouth. Hamjoli is not food. He quickly snatched Hamjoli back, you little rascal. I introduced you guys so you could be friends. Yakeon, having its food snatched away, didn't seem to care and just nonchalantly scratched its ear. That attitude made Chansu feel utterly helpless. You're not even listening, are you? He glanced at Johan, who was standing calmly to one side with his arms crossed. Johan, why are you just standing there watching? The corner of his mouth still had apple crumbs on it from his snack, his serious expression unchanging. If something was really going to happen, I would have stopped it. Chansu screamed in disbelief. Hamjoli almost got eaten. He helplessly bent down to ask the small, sobbing mouse, are you okay? Sujin approached worriedly. Hamjoli, are you hurt anywhere? We'll have to be careful until they get used to each other. Seeing that everything was okay, she then brought up a new topic. By the way, Chansu, there's actually something I need to talk to you about. He turned to look at her quizzically. What is it now? If it's about the ostrich tail resin, I already saw the message. Sujin looked up at him, a scammer claiming to be. The owner of the Emperor's apple has appeared. Chansu forced a smile and replied, what a strange scammer all for, just an apple. Her expression turned serious as she continued, right. But listen, he said that, Sujin continued, because the apple carries the blessing of prosperity. As the apostle of prosperity, he also has the right to own it. Hearing these words, Chansu stared at her, slightly stunned. Huh. He even brought an apple, one that's obviously fake, to prove he's the apostle of prosperity. But compared to the Emperor's apple, it was just a cheap knockoff. Sujin let out a sigh of relief. He even brought a fake contract using a fake prosperity artifact. So now we can completely dismiss his claim. What a relief. Seeing him remain silent, she looked up at Chansu. Noticing his head bowed with a grim expression, Sujin asked, what's wrong? Chansu's hand clenched into a fist. He thought to himself, there's another apostle besides me. He recalled the image of the trembling ginseng root in the ground. He's never shown himself before. He recalled the little Hamjoli surrounding and playing with him. And now this guy shows up claiming ownership and calling himself Prosperity. A huge question formed in his mind. Could he have been the real apostle from the very beginning? Chansu spoke seriously, Miss Sujin. We need to find that person. Seeing his demeanor, she asked quizzically, "Do you know him?" Hamjali's jaw dropped, knowing he was about to reveal the truth. "The apostle is actually." Chansu looked her straight in the eye, serious. "I am the apostle of prosperity." Sujin was utterly shocked. She cried out in surprise. What Chansu's face was grim as he turned away abruptly. "You know the saying, money can make even the devil do your bidding. Let's put a bounty on him." He picked up the bright red apple from the ground. "I'll pay extra for that artifact." Chansu held up the apple, which was as big as his head, his sharp gaze fixed on her. "And if he's captured alive, the reward will be 100 Emperor's apples." Johann, standing to the side, flinched slightly upon hearing this. He frowned slightly. 100 apples. The scene changes to another dark place. At the same time, somewhere in a small alley of the god of negation, a man in a hooded black cloak walked. As he walked, he thought to himself to convince Johann and his disciples, "I need undead." He gritted his teeth in anger, an apostle of the god of negation without any undead. Is like fried squid without squid, a steamed bun without red bean filling sushi, without fish army stew without spam, or a fish cake without fish. He thought of a few skeletons holding apples. Their hands have already fallen off. He mused to himself, "I guess I can use low-level undead. But the 5th-generation brats will definitely mess things up." The wooden door opens as an elderly man inside the shop cheerfully laughs in welcome. Well. "Look who it is, our broke friend." The hooded man frowned in annoyance and retorted, "I am a customer, you know." He didn't want to waste words taking the paper the shopkeeper placed on the table. "Whatever. Just give that to me." As the shopkeeper handed over the item, he asked where the money was. The cloaked man grit his teeth in pain and presented a large black gemstone. "You take raw materials, too, right?" The shopkeeper laughed in annoyance. "Grabbing for the gem, you have to let go for me to take it." He gripped it tightly, unwilling to let go. "You know I had to pay extra to get this from that old geezer." "Right," the shopkeeper replied. "Of course I know." He shouted at him again, "I'm selling this below market price." After a struggle, the shopkeeper finally yanked the gem from the man's hand. "I'm not senile yet, you little punk." He sulked and hung his head low. "Just give me a good price." The shopkeeper was exasperated. "Do you think I'm made of money?" The man frowned sadly. "This could be the last time we meet. We've known each other for a long time. The least you could do is give me a discount, right?" The shopkeeper turned a blind eye and finally gave in to him. "You're really good at getting to my soft spot. You know that, don't you?" He asked with keen interest. "All right, you went broke looking for the Emperor's apple, didn't you?" The man frowned, speechless. "You can't be talking about that ridiculous fraudster." The shopkeeper raised a hand, looking at him seriously. "It seems that's not entirely true. Even some of the enlightened ones got fooled." He looked smug. "Well, everyone already knows that. But some breaking news just came in." The man, annoyed but restraining himself, urged, "Hurry up and tell me." The shopkeeper's words startled the man. "There's a bounty on that fraudster for 100 Emperor's apples if caught alive, with a bonus if the artifact is recovered." He smirked as the man immediately spun around and left. "Thanks for the tip about the bounty." The shopkeeper called after him from behind, "If you're that grateful, make sure you come back." He hurried down the empty street, his pace quick and relentless. "I've finally found it." The man joyfully broke into a run, his fierce face filled with anticipation. "My proposal gift, not long after by some miracle." This black-haired fellow had actually shown up in Chanso's territory, along with his 2 cronies, to ask to become a subordinate. "Please accept me, I will work my hardest," he said with an incredibly serious face. However, Chanso was rather stunned by this. He wondered to himself, is this some kind of joke? With that said, he immediately turned to ask Johann, who was happily eating an apple beside me, "What should I do now?" Before he could finish, Chanso noticed Johann's indifferent expression, sighed, and said, "Never mind, just eat plenty of apples on the other side." The long-haired friend was still trying to persuade him, "For you, Chanso, I even caught this guy. Please accept it." As he said this, a skeleton soldier from behind dragged a tied-up, brown-haired man forward. Needless to say, our main character had already figured it out. This was the imposter who sold the Emperor's apples. He was a little surprised. Was it really that fast? Considering the travel restrictions and the distance it seems, he caught him right after the bounty of 100 Emperor's apples was posted for things to have happened so quickly. Thinking about this, he was certain it was thanks to the aura of prosperity. Chanso's expression darkened a bit as he noticed the struggling scammer in front of him. He didn't look special enough to be a con artist, just an ordinary man. So how did he deceive everyone? The scammer started screaming like a mad dog, "You bastards, hurry up and untie me. This is insubordination to a superior, don't you know?" Chanso's cold voice replied, "I'm not sure about your persuasion skills, but you certainly know how to piss people off." The scammer seemed to know no fear as he was still smiling cheerfully. "Keep acting tough when you can't even kill me." The scammer's challenge seemed to have reached our hero's limit as he immediately placed his sharp scythe against the man's throat and spoke with a voice full of killing intent. Since you're from the Celestial King, do you have any idea what I can do to you? Even now, I can see exactly where and how I need to cut. No. With that said, feeling that he had intimidated the scammer enough, he withdrew his scythe and ordered them to check the scammer's artifact. The scammer immediately panicked, sweating profusely. How dare you try to rob your senior? Once again, Chanso's face turned livid as killing intent poured out of him. This guy who kept rambling on didn't act like a senior at all. Beside him, the long-haired friend was eager to take credit. So he immediately brought over a wreath-like artifact to give to Chanso. Here it is. Sir Chanso looked at the wreath in his hand and quickly realized something. So the aura doesn't come from the artifact. Then this means he is... In front of them, the imposter started yelling again, "Don't touch it, it's mine." And Chanso could only sigh wearily at his words. Is this guy really my senior? No. It's precisely because a guy like this is a senior that prosperity has fallen into this state. As he said this, Chanso's hand clenched in anger. He tried to remain calm, put the wreath on his head and declared a traitor who has never even visited the goddess. What right do you have to talk about the Emperor's apples? The imposter retorted, I am a true apostle of the Celestial King, and I deserve the privileges that come with it. And Chanso shook his head, refuting him. You haven't contributed a single thing, so what right do you have to demand anything? Suddenly the imposter burst out laughing, and what about you? What have you done? You grew up on the foundation that I built. Chanso's voice changed slightly as he asked, and where did this sentiment that everything was originally for me come from? At this moment, the imposter immediately nodded like a chicken pecking at grain and claimed all the credit for himself. That's right, the apples, the temple, and even the monsters were all thanks to me. At this thought, Chanso was so angry he gritted his teeth. He had been so lost and helpless all alone in a desolate place. What did that guy know to be spouting such nonsense? Calm down. No matter how I think about it, this isn't something a single apostle could have accomplished. With that thought, he began to interrogate him again. Stop with the nonsense. Who are you hearing this question? The imposter's expression immediately changed, and he stammered, What are you talking about? Chanso frowned and asked again who was backing you. The common goal of a world is to protect its god and strengthen them, but you abandoned your god and left. You must have had something to rely on. The brown-haired man broke out in a cold sweat at that deduction. However, he still stubbornly insisted that's not what happened. I was just trying to survive and ended up being exiled to a remote place like this. His voice grew weak as Chanso raised his scythe. He said, I'm hearing your last words goodbye. His face cold and unfeeling. He didn't seem to be joking at all, which made the imposter's spirit collapse. He hurriedly confessed everything right before the scythe could take his head weight. I had no other choice. Unlike you, I'm just an ordinary person who has never even swung a scythe before. So? Chanso didn't want to hear this villain's excuses, so he cut him off. Stop with the useless talk and tell me who is behind you. The imposter continued to lie. I don't know. Hearing this, Chanso threatened him again, making the guy so scared he almost wet himself. I really don't know. They said they'd give me enough money for a lifetime, so I did it. But I haven't even seen a single coin. I was tricked too. His voice was filled with resentment. But Chanso felt no sympathy at all. So you're saying you're completely useless. At this point, the brown-haired man realized his predicament. He cried and begged, Please spare me. I swear I'll never do this again. It's too late. Chanso spoke as he struck him on the back of the neck with the handle of his scythe, causing the brown-haired man to instantly pass out. In his heart, Chanso was actually a bit dissatisfied. I want to chop his head off right now. But even though this is a game world, I still can't imagine it. Hurting a real person with my own hands, he thought. He let out a weary sigh. At the same time, a red notification screen suddenly appeared in the air. The god of negation invites you to change your god if you become his apostle. You can kill that man. What do you think of this invitation? Chanso felt a little apprehensive. The god of negation again. Is he some kind of stalker? I wasn't even planning on killing him. That being is acting as if there's some kind of barrier holding me back. Chanso immediately turned to ask Johan behind him, Johan, what happens if you kill someone from your own faction? Johan shook his head, showing that he didn't know either. And Chanso wasn't surprised by the answer. Oh, right, Johan isn't an apostle. At the very moment, Chanso didn't know what to do next. The long-haired guy in the back spoke up. Hey, you. Oh, Chansu. Restoring a negation is an exception, but it's normally a taboo. If you violate it, you will be punished or even excommunicated. Hearing this, Chansu seemed to understand everything. He glanced at the imposter lying on the ground and thought, I guess that's why that person was so bold. So that's how it is. If I really wanted to, I could make the captured negation do it. Meanwhile, the god continued with an announcement. You are a talent worthy of being an apostle of negation. Chanso immediately refused. It still doesn't suit me. I'm not interested. The god didn't seem to give up and continued to entice him. Change gods and you will gain unparalleled power. Chansu frowned and repeated once more, I don't need it. The god seemed determined to have him. So the god of negation offered a 1-month free trial. At this point, Chanso became annoyed and shouted, I said, I'm not doing it. Is this some kind of religion? If he can send a message so suddenly like this, he must be connected to this somehow. As he thought this, he turned towards the long-haired guy's group, making them all tremble at his sharp gaze. But just as quickly, Chansu retracted his gaze and asked, You asked me to take you in, didn't you? Hearing this, the long-haired guy immediately became excited. Yes, that's right. I don't even need the reward money. We'll discuss the terms of employment later. For now, I'll give you your first mission. Watch this traitor, he said, pointing to the unconscious imposter on the ground. The scene shifts to inside the ruined temple. The goddess, having just woken up, suddenly became wide awake. She said loudly, that is the artifact of prosperity. In front of her, Chansu approached with the wreath and said calmly, Goddess, I wish to return what originally belongs to you. He said this while holding the wreath forward, which made the goddess gasp in surprise. However, after a moment, she gently pushed the wreath back towards him and shook her head in refusal. Seeing this, Chanso smiled and replied, I'm fine. I've been living just fine without it. The wreath gently flew onto the goddess's head, fitting her perfectly. Something strange began to happen at that very moment. The crystal inside the flower bud suddenly emitted a brilliant light, astonishing everyone. What is happening? Chanso yelled out. Then he waited for the light to fade. He then saw a small figure within the smoke and asked, Who are you nearby? Doji was moved to the verge of tears. The goddess has finally regained her power. Chanso wondered as he got a clear look at the figure in front of him. No way, is this the goddess?